At this time, I make a motion. The closed meeting was conducted in conformity with the provision of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as required by Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia, and certified that only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. This time I want to welcome everyone to our August meeting, and we're going to open by asking Ms. Tynes to lead us in the pledge and the moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to begin with special presentations, Emerging Leaders Program presentation.
Thank you. How are you doing? Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Thornton. So this summer, we were able to launch the Emerging Leaders Summer Program. And so this is our mission statement. And this summer, we had 2 sites for the emerging leaders. And we understood that we needed to separate them, so we had them at Windsor High School and at Windsor Elementary School. And the purpose was to create an enrichment program that was diverse, that allowed for students to have a sense of belonging, unity, and exposure to a variety of resources, and a sense of awareness. We had site leaders at both locations. We had 4 teachers and 2 instructional coaches. And this lasted throughout the duration of summer school, so for 4 weeks. The Emerging Leaders Summer Program is for several weeks an interactive workshop that promotes a safe space to take risks associated with intellectual growth and development. Our students were able to take risks this summer and being able to explore what does it mean to be a scholar? What does it mean to be a leader? And that's not always the case, because sometimes they're so focused on feeling different or being excluded that this summer we wanted to make them feel included, where they didn't have to focus on their social identities, but they can just focus on learning, and they did that. We also talked about understanding and embracing oneself. They were able to embrace each other. They took a chance with each other. They were able to have courageous conversations, that they decided to have conversations with each other to embrace each other's differences, but also value what they all had in common. And then they realized that they had more in common than they had in differences. It also was a space that was daily affirmations. Every morning they came in, there were sticky notes that had daily affirmations. They were able to pick an affirmation and read it in the mirror, so they felt empowered throughout the whole entire process. And then we also was able to expose our students to things that some of them were unable to ever be exposed to. We had a student who say, this was my first time ever out of Smithfield when they went to Nauticus. Our goals: we wanted to increase their insight. We wanted them to see themselves differently. We wanted to help them cultivate their creativity with deeper learning. So many of them got excited about learning to learn. For many of them, school was not their thing. And we had a parent to say, like, what are you all doing there? Because during the school year, he didn't want to get up and go to school. But now this is something that he's interested in, what's going on. And we just reminded them that also it's different because the classroom is smaller. But also we were taking taking them outside of the box and helping them to remember that this is limitless, giving them an opportunity to think, what is it that you want to do? If there's anything in the world that you could be, what would it be? And then allowing them to drive the car to their education, and then we took the passenger seat and we took that ride along with them. I want to introduce today Chelsea, who's going to speak to you about her experience throughout the program.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board. Maya Angelou once said, "If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." The Emerging Leaders Program strives to develop a sense of belonging, self-awareness, unity, and exposure to diverse resources that will pioneer cultural and historical traditions. Therefore, the purpose of this writing is to explain my experience as an emerging leader and how this program helped me. To begin, what was my experience as an emerging leader? My experience as an emerging leader was inspirational. It was inspirational because each class session started with a positive. Every student made sure they encouraged and supported each other. For instance, each student would choose an affirmation. Then he or she would read the affirmation in the mirror and place it on the affirmation board. The purpose of the affirmations was to inspire you to keep going, emphasizing that you are amazing and you are limitless. Therefore, the affirmations, the encouragement from peers is what made my experience good. Next, I also had a fun experience at the Emerging Leaders Program. The experience was fun because we had an opportunity to go on field trips, play games, and do puzzles. The first field trip was Nauticus. Nauticus was fun because I built an underwater robot and I toured the battleship Nauticus. The last field trip was the farm at Windsor Elementary. The farm was fun because we were able to feed the animals and learn a little bit about them. Two of the games we played were Jenga and Shoulders, Knees, Cup. The motive of Jenga was to see who would knock the blocks down first. The motive of Shoulders, Knees, Cup was to get the cup before your opponent. My class and I completed about 3 puzzles as a whole to show how teamwork makes the dream work. Lastly, how did the Emerging Leaders Program help me? The program helped me take a step out of my comfort zone. The person who helped me do this was my teacher, Ms. Davis. Ms. Davis would always call on me to answer questions or to give my opinion about something. For example, we were listening to a motivational speaker, and at the end, she challenged us to ask the speaker a question. When she called me to come up, I had questions, but I was scared to ask. Finally, I gained enough confidence to ask the questions. After that moment, I felt super proud of myself because I didn't let fear or shyness win in that moment. Therefore, Ms. Davis' challenges and putting me on the spot has helped me be confident to answer questions, ask questions, and give opinions. To bring it all together, I'm glad I had the opportunity to attend this program. Everyone's experience may be different, but I believe everyone can say that it was a great opportunity. The Emerging Leaders Program helped me to be more confident in myself and brought out the leader in me. I'm a little sad that I won't be able to attend next year due to this being my senior year. I will make sure I'll implement everything I learned in this program to my next chapter in life. As my opening hook says, if you always try to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. I'm glad I took this step out of normal routine because I realized how amazing I can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Do we have any other emerging leaders here? Just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Okay. So our students concluded the program with final presentations. So the 6th through 8th graders did their presentations at Windsor Elementary School and 9th through 12th at Windsor High School. Students presented all of their presentations throughout the 4 weeks. And we did a gallery walk where students had to present their purpose, their research. They they were teamed together, and so they also explained how it was to work with each other and be able to compromise when doing a project. Then during the ceremony, we heard students use words like, I felt accepted. We heard students say, I felt heard. We heard students constantly repeat the motto for emerging leaders, which is, on the shoulders of those before us, we emerge. They took the time to learn Isle of Wight history, but they also took the time to learn their history and think about those who came before them and the sacrifices that they had to make so that they can be successful. This summer, we just opened their eyes to that anything is possible if you just believe. They concluded with their Emerging Leaders Pledge. I am unique and there is no one like me. I'm extraordinary and no one else can do what I do. I am smart and I have the power to learn, gain knowledge, and use education to make an impact. I am talented. My gifts are unparalleled. I'm strong. I will be resilient in the face of adversity. I am supported. My community believes in me. Nothing is impossible if I just believe and put in hard work. I am my ancestors' dream. I am an emerging leader. They said this every day at the end of the day as a reminder to themselves. Our students felt heard. Our students felt accepted, and they were different from different walks of life, but they accepted each other, they loved on each other, and they grew. And at the end of the ceremony, we had a parent who said to us, this is not the same student that started the program. It's just about giving them an opportunity, and that's exactly what the Emerging Leaders Program set out to do, and I believe we accomplished that. Thank you, board. Thank you, Dr. Thornton.
One comment. When you guys do this next year, this coming year, let the board know. I would love to have gone to some of those meetings with those kids.
She did, Mrs. Perkins. She invited us. I had an opportunity to attend the middle school one, but I couldn't attend the high school the day before because of medical appointment. But she did, and I'll tell you about it later.
Madam Chair and board members, I will say, I had an opportunity to go to one of their classes where they were practicing, presenting, like 2 weeks prior to their final presentation. And just in that 2-week period, the confidence was, it's like they were new people in a 2-week time period. And they did the research the first time and had great research, but they weren't confident delivering it. And within that 2-week time period, what a change. They were confident in expressing what they had learned. It was nice to watch. Similar to, I know you've all seen our expos and stuff, and that confidence when you learn.
How many students was it?
We have 40 students.
40.
We have 40 students, yes, so 20 at each site. And so we have 40 slots opened for all of our students.
So did we have a waiting list?
We did end up having
Someone had to
we
turn
did end
in.
up having a waiting list. We did. So hopefully now that we started the program, we can take more students next year. But also to add more teachers too, so that we can have that closed, small community, so that they can be able to express themselves more and take risks. These were all students who had all the potential, but just didn't have the tools. They didn't have the tools to for someone to believe in them and to take that risk to think of education differently, to see education and not be boring, that this was something that I could do this. And at the end of this program, they felt like they could be limitless, that the sky was the limit. And they were encouraging each other at the 6th to 8th grade presentation that they were coming out. They started to applaud for each other. They started to give each other pounds. They were just cheering for each other and telling each other, you can do this, and we're so proud of you. They inspired us. The staff was inspired by them this summer. And it's a great reminder of what building a community looks like. Thank you very much.
So I want to say one thing. They worked hard, but they were having fun while they were working.
Yes.
Yes, they did. I mean, at the end of the presentation, they were having so much fun sharing their information, and it was hot. So we were all just walking around, but they wanted each one of us to come to their table because they worked hard in developing that information, but they were so excited about it. They said, this is the first time learning seemed like it could be fun, but it had always been there. Our teachers do this all the time, but sometimes students do need a little bit more focus and attention on them. And so the program creates an opportunity to give them a little bit more time to develop and become that leader who's emerging. And then we did take a vow. The community took a vow and stood up, parents and the community members, and said, we vow to support you, to remind you that you can stand on our shoulders to do this. And then the students read their pledge to their parents and to the community. So this was a collaborative effort. That this is not just the students. We all have to be a part of this too. It's all of us or none of us.
Madam Chair, to follow up what Mrs. Jones was saying, I Mr. Lobardo and myself were there, and I was like, said, Mr. Lobardo, I said, that's Dr. Thornton, the future Dr. Thornton. And that day, we even completed the whole school board because I could see all of these young eyes, bright-eyed children and students. They were our future leaders in our community. And that's why I was so proud of what they were doing. They even had an opportunity to dress themselves the way they wanted to. And there was one young man, he actually had on a full suit, tie, and everything. And his parents, I talked to his parents, and they said he really came out. They were really proud of him. I said, well, that was the future superintendent of schools. I mean, the way he carried himself, the way he talked, he just believed in himself. I know I can do it, I'm a leader.
Yes.
And that's what we need in our community, because I said that to say this. A lot of times we go out into the community, we ask people, run for public office, do this, would you want to lead? And I know the Board of Supervisors as well, they need to fill positions in the community. People say no. Hopefully, these young people will be out here in our community. I give them 10 years, 6 years, 10 years, and we will have them ready to fill in to carry on with positions within the Isle of Wight County community or wherever they choose to go.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It was a lovely program, and I enjoyed myself.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is request to speak, and just want to remind everybody, if there's anyone here to speak on masks in schools, please know that earlier today, Governor Northam announced a public health emergency order to require universal masking when indoors in our K through 12 schools. I think except in when they're eating, physical education, and when they're playing musical
Sports.
instruments, and of course when they're outside. So, did I get that right?
You did.
Okay. Okay.
So, first I want to let you know that there's there are 27 people that have signed up. So I'll start out with the policy. In accordance to policy BDDH-E, presentations of information on any subject will be concluded at the direction of the board. No person will be recognized to speak more than once. Citizens scheduled on the agenda to speak will be permitted 5 minutes maximum time for their presentation. Delegations will be requested to limit their speakers to 2. A maximum of 30 minutes will be designated for public comments. Persons speaking are asked to be specific, state the issues for the board's consideration, and attach a copy of their prepared remarks. If you have prepared remarks, they should be given to the board clerk. Please do not approach the board members. The school board requests that speakers refrain from referring to specific individuals, and that any matter related to a specific student or individual be discussed in a closed meeting. Ready? So the first one is Miss Arian Williams.
Second, Ms. Reward.
The 30 minutes happens, that's when we'll talk about that. When the 30 minutes is over, is that what you're talking about?
No,
What?
we need to make that announcement now because we have so many. We need to maybe reduce that time so we won't be here so late tonight.
Well, we're going to wait to the 30 minutes, and then we'll talk about that.
Okay, so, ready? So the first one is Arian Williams. Sorry, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and school board members and community shakers, changers, and builders. You know, we should be shakers, changers, and builders in order for us to build a solid foundation. I want to talk about unity this evening as we seem to be deepening a divide within our community based on misinterpretations and misconceptions. As an educator, I'm not teaching critical race theory in my classroom. In fact, it is not even in a part of the K-12 curriculum. I do teach culture in every lesson that I present in my classroom. The problem is simply that some do not understand how to define culture. I guess what's hard for me to understand is that if a person has never been a part of developing a school curriculum, cannot list the standards of learning, or never created a pacing guide, or even sat in a classroom to participate in a lesson, well, it's hard to assume what is being taught inside of our classrooms. So here's a little wordplay. It's hard to race critically with just a theory. Hopefully you know that a theory is just a rational type of abstract thinking about phenomenon or results of such thinking, but I'll just leave that right there for a pondering moment of deep knowledge. If the phrase critical race theory offends the spirit, then let's just call it coming righteously together for this evening, to harbor a much softer tone. I love to teach tone, which is diction, in my classroom. It is also differentiated and a part of culture, by the way. You do know that culture is in everything that we do. The arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively as a definition, or shall I say the denotation, which is the dictionary meaning of the word, and that word is culture. You see, my concern is unity, my concern is acceptance, my concern is the mental state of our students when they come back into the classroom. My concern is equality, my concern is being fair, which is synonymous to the word equity. We are deepening a divide with our anger, our negative voices, and our traditional mindsets. And I will tell you that the students that sit in my classroom, they're already seeing the future. Yet we have closed our own eyes to the past because we are afraid to open them to see the true reality. But a unified community and culture cares about the diverse world that our children will interact with once they leave the school and have interactions with a diverse world. But a unified community and culture has no problem with transitioning with the world by releasing a traditional mindset and adopting an authentic mindset that is not built on weak misinterpretations, rather strength, growth, and the ability to plant a legacy. So in my classroom, being culturally responsive means that I have to dig into the hearts of my students to find out who they are and where they come from so that I can help them to get to where they are and to need to be in the future. But that's culture. So I don't have time to fight over a theory. You can do it all you want, but you're wasting time. But I do have time to fight for every single one of my students in my classroom with lessons that allow them to tap into their destiny and their journey through diverse lessons that challenge the mind, break depression, cultivate the gift within, explore the many facets of the world through perspective, and find their worth, show them how to break past chains and future chains, and show them freedom and creativity. But let me stop right there because I can go on and on, because the fight reaches beyond just this moment. So the fight reaches beyond holding a community status for our friends, and the fight reaches beyond a theory. But my fight as an educator and as a mother, a famous author once stated, language is powerful. When you're able to name a thing, it moves out of the realm of mystery into concreteness. So let's name some things that we can do to empower our community and not make it powerless. But let's put some things in concrete that builds, and I am big on symbolism. So this is what I have. I did bring some puzzle pieces today, and I'm going to place them out there. But if we're truly a part of diversity and we're truly a part of community, then I challenge you all to take a piece of that puzzle. But they're all different types of pieces. And so when you all go home, I want you all to think that you still hold a piece of your particular community. So whether you take it or not, I want you to remember that it's not about us, it's about our children, and it's about us changing the future so that they can understand the future for them. We're not always going to be here.
1 minute.
Thank you.
Next, Heidi Schwartz.
Good evening. This board and superintendent have continually said that they will not address comments about what we continue to ask in regards to questions regarding critical race theory and training. I ask you parents and citizens and the Board of Supervisors of Wight County if this is an acceptable answer. The board also publicly claims that they are not teaching students about critical race theory. This is a completely false statement. Let me explain why. With thousands of pages obtained by parents and FOIAs this summer, we have indeed found that principles of Marxism and critical race theory are being trained to the administrative team, and starting this month, plan to be trained to the teachers, which will inherently be trickled down into the classroom. This includes a detailed equity tool plan asked by Ms. Jones and completed by the Hardy Elementary Principal, Mrs. Denson. Found in this plan, she states, incorporated culturally appropriate lessons and instructions within the curriculum. and a goal was set for leaders to ensure all students are acknowledged and seen for who they are by the color of their skin. Let me repeat that. Lessons and instructions within the curriculum, and students are acknowledged and seen by the color of their skin. This is racist, Marxism, and critical race theory. This is much more than the courageous conversations that the school board keeps repeating is the goal for the equity and coordinators hire of the Iowa Wight school system. The board also states that this was not made lightly to hire the equity and inclusion coordinator. The board stated that this was based on a percentage of student suspensions, attending hours, and dual enrollment in our schools, along with citizen concerns of bias based on these reports. I've received some of these studies myself, and it would take a much longer time than the 5 minutes tonight to explain them. So I'm going to share a quote that was sent to us by a school resource officer. The school resource officer served in all the schools but one. And it states this: I had personally witnessed the discipline administered according to the rules, and all students were treated equally when it came to that discipline. There was not any racial bias discipline that I witnessed during any of my time at the schools. I'm going to address the salary of the equity and coordinator at over $80,000 a year. This board has explained to me that the salary was set at a scale. The set scale included years of experience, degrees earned, and along with her formal training. From what can be obtained on public record, the Equity Inclusion Coordinator has no past experience in the K-12 nor any degrees in equity or training. That's not to say that an individual can come in and not position or do well in a position like this, but your explanation of her salary doesn't fit that. Another citizen tonight will address in more detail. Tonight, expenditures over $100,000 spent on training and consulting for this equity coordinator. If the equity coordinator was hired at a high salary based on her experience and degrees, why is the community still spending an additional $64,000 on consulting and $46,000 on training? In addition, I'd like to address one more thing: the superintendent's appearance of abuse in leadership and power. The board needs to investigate his social media post in the Iowa Wight School Facebook page when he addressed a post from an individual who posted a picture of Miss Jones. He blamed this on a group of parents, stating it was done because she doesn't look like us and called us shameful. He knew that this was completely false. He knew this was done by a single individual who has nothing to do with the group of parents who have been attending these meetings, emailing the board, and meeting with the board, and with Miss Jones herself. His statement was a racist statement,
1 minute.
which provoked division, something that the group of parents that have been coming before you have not done. Not once have we addressed this board nor Mrs. Jones in a racist or hatred manner. We've come to you because of a propaganda and a racist curriculum within our children's education. There's no place for that here in education or anywhere. Thank you.
Ask Tracy if she would pass me what she read prior to them coming in. You pass me your paper.
If she wants to turn it in, she can.
No. Ask Tracy to pass me the paper that she read.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Okay, is Miss Valerie Butler here? I don't know if she, okay, I wasn't sure. She wasn't sure if she was gonna make it. Thank you. Okay, next, Miss Jennifer Napier. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Napier, and I've been living in Wight County for 5 wonderful years. I could go on and on about how great our schools are, but I won't because we already know that. I understand that you have stated critical race theory won't be part of the curriculum at Wight schools. However, evidence says otherwise. You can call it something else, but if it looks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. I'm Puerto Rican, Italian, and Irish, born in New York, who was transplanted to Virginia. I've dealt with racism multiple times in my life, from black folks, white folks, and even Latin folks. It's true, I wasn't Latina enough. My parents dealt with it before me. White-skinned woman married to a very dark-skinned New York man in the 70s. Good luck finding an apartment. My mother's parents before her, too. An Irish woman with an Italian man, a big no-no. Her mother made her wash in the hallway after their dates to get the olive oil off of her skin. My father grew up in the projects of the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where you had to look up whenever you walked around in fear of people throwing bricks and glass off the rooftops. He witnessed someone being murdered on a basketball court as a kid. Drugs were everywhere, human excrement in the elevators, prostitution and drugs in the stairwells. Talk about overcoming adversity through hard work and dedication. After all this, do I have hatred in my heart? No. Stupidity is everywhere, it knows no color. I am teaching my kids to be stronger than that, to stick up for themselves, and to strive for what they want, just like I was raised, because it's the home's job to teach morality, not the school's. I know it's taboo to say, but I don't care. I don't see color. Clearly, I see color because I'm not colorblind. Theoretically, I don't see color. I base my judgment on a person's character, which is what I also teach my children. The school system can't even tackle bullying. I surely do not want them teaching my kids morals. That's my job. It's my job to shape their character, and it's your job to help them teach grammar, spelling, math, science, history, etc. Stay out of our homes. And since this all ties in, I don't care what anyone's political affiliation is because that's none of my business. So keep politics, which is what this all really boils down to, out of the schools as well. You're part of the problem. You are the ones creating the division and not the arithmetic kind, period.
Mr. Reverend Willie Williams.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Thornton, and everyone who is present tonight. I want to speak truth to the powerless. I know from the onset that many of you want to know who is the powerless, and why speak truth to the powerless. Well, let me give you a quote from page 6 and 7 of McGill A. Delatorre's book entitled Decolonizing Christianity, Becoming Badass Believers. By now, and this is a quote, by now some of you are probably asking whether I, as author, have a responsibility to raise the consciousness of oppressors and thus have an obligation to try to save white people from their folly. No doubt, silence denies justice, but all too often, people of color are expected to speak truth to power. The expression has always distressed me because it assumed power is ignorant of the truth and that there is the potential for redemption when truth is heard. And because the abused and misused know the truth, they must shoulder the burden of speaking truth to their persecutor, regardless of the consequences. I maintain that those in power know the truth all too well, yet still choose unjust and oppressive policy because they are profitable. I am not motivated to speak truth to power. I would rather focus on speaking truth to the powerless, who have been taught for generations to believe the lie of those who shape our unjust social structure. Speaking truth with, not to, the disenfranchised raises consciousness and decolonizes minds, which can lead to practice that might bring about change and maybe even change for the better. End of quote. I have sat and listened to much opposition to the state-mandated equity and inclusion program, which has been implemented in our school system. There are evidence of aggressive attacks made and are still being made against school board members, superintendent, staff, and citizens in an attempt to overturn the implementation of an equity and inclusion program. Why is the equity and inclusion program and staff receiving so much negative reactions? I hope to answer the powerless question in a moment. I am well aware that any kind of change will bring about resistance. But this kind of resistance is more than one should expect or even anticipate. Whatever opposition and or concerns the powerful have expressed, the school board have already attempted to answer. But no answer is sufficient. So I have come to the conclusion that these folks are playing a game described by Eric Berney in his book, Games People Play, as poor old me. In this game, the person has a dilemma that they do not truly want to accept a solution. They do not want a solution because an accepted solution will reveal a hidden truth that they do not want you to discover. You watch the game that the powerful play with the school board. They raise issues such as, I don't want no one teaching my child a different family value than I am teaching. Well, I want to share two questions with you. Who qualified them as a teacher? When my children were born, I do not recall the doctor or nurse handing me an instruction booklet nor a teacher certificate. Every teacher in the school are qualified and certified to teach the truth as they know it. You ought to be rejoicing that the school board is willing to take the risk of enhancing their skill through the implementation of the Equity and Inclusion Program. My second question for them is, if what you are teaching your child at home is the truth, then why are you so afraid of your child being exposed to others' teaching?
Okay, it's
Those
time is up.
exposing-
I'm sorry, time is up.
Okay, let me finish this statement. Let me just give the conclusion.
We have
Ma'am.
to, because we've got so many
Since the
speakers.
decision of Brown versus the Board of Education, 1954,
We have to.
every public school, well, anybody that wants a copy of this, you should,
Yes.
I will be glad to give it to you.
Please give a copy to
And
Ms.
you need to read it,
Thank you.
because you need to stop playing games and tell the truth. The truth of the matter is
Thank you, Mr. Williams. If you could
that
just give
you're
that
trying
copy
to
to her.
disguise taking us back to segregation, and it ain't gonna work.
Okay, next we have Mr. Todd Meyer.
Well, I get to go after the preacher. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, in lieu of that last comment, I'm going to switch gears for a moment. Maybe I'm not going to address those topics since the masks are off the docket for speaking due to our governor and the health department. That'll be addressed, I'm sure, by other colleagues. But for today, I'd like to address some finance stuff. I have questions as a parent, and I'd like to raise some of these things. The AARP that we discussed, or you all discussed in the closed sessions of the $4.7 million that's coming up due, that you're going to be voting on here in August. Roughly $3.6 million of that money is going to be spent on facility upgrades. The question I have is, I know a lot of it has to deal with the boilers and the piping. We have boiler issues and we have piping for heating issues. But will that money be in addition to the original budgeted money? How much is spent into the infrastructure? Because I know at various other schools within the school system, we still have issues with coming back off a break and we have no oil for the elementary schools and kids are stuck in classrooms that are at 40 degrees. Then we got to send them back home because we don't have heat. I know we have a building automation system that's supposed to be doing predictive maintenance and being able to tell us such things as when boilers and chillers go offline. I'd like to know about, on that note, like the issues with the various AC systems we have. I know Windsor Elementary had water issues with their well water at one point. And I also know that the, like Carrollton with the AC, trying to get the AC balanced in various classrooms, there was very challenges with that. So are we spending funding to address those problems directly with the AC systems, the infrastructure, since the majority of this money that's being allocated to us is going towards these things? How much of that is going to be in addition to the original schedule funds, and what does the backlog look like on those maintenance requests? How many do we have? How many of those issues have been identified? What is the 5-year, 10-year, and 15-year strategic plan on those things? The other question I have, which is a huge one that I can't seem to find any information on, is driving around the county, I see all these solar panels going up. We see solar farms going up. I'm curious, was there a grant? Was there funding provided for that? How did we wind up putting solar panels on these buildings? And with that question is, we just built a brand-new middle school, so Georgie Tyler has a brand-new building with a brand-new metal roof that we just put solar panels on a roof. How does that affect the warranty? Because now all roofs leak. Anyone who's done facilities works knows that. How do we repair that leak when you have solar panels on top? How do you get to those to repair the leak? Do we have a separate rider for that? What is the warranty? Who carries that warranty when we do inevitably get that leak, and how does it get repaired? Or do we now have to fork out as a taxpayer more money and ask the Board of Supervisors to ask more money for our spending? I was curious how that is. The final question along with the solar panels is there some way I can get the information on the return on investment on that, or the life cycle cost, the upkeep of the maintenance costs on those? I don't know, I've been able to find out, is that a demand-only system? Is that one that we actually negotiated bulk buys with through the community electric with, where we purchase so many kilowatt hours worth of power, and what price are we paying for that? Has that been negotiated in with that price? Is that total life cycle cost? Are we tied into load shedding capabilities? Which is the ultimate goal of that. If we're generating our own power, that means it has to go somewhere. If we're using it, that's part of that negotiated stuff. So I'd be curious to be put in touch with someone who can answer those questions.
1 minute.
Since I'm down to a minute, I will buy more time for other people to speak. I thank you for your considerations.
Do you have all those questions written down that you can forward?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll hand them to you.
Okay. Yep. So next we have Miss Lakeisha Upfold. Upfold. It was about math, so maybe she.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. I am not going to be able to pronounce this next gentleman's name. Do you know it's you? Thank you. Woo, it's you. I had a hard time when you spelled it for me. I appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody.
Say your name and do it.
Olumide Onide.
Did you get that?
You got that? Everybody got that? Cool. Yeah, I typed up something nice here, but something in my heart is telling me to say something else. So I'm gonna start off with this. Ed Equity Virginia aims to eliminate the predictability of student outcome based on race, gender, zip code, ability, psychoeconomic status, and/or language spoken at home. I got that right. So, teach us something about what's going on, like getting everybody on the same level. Because I don't know about everybody here, but I know I have to tell my kids at home that you have to work 10 times harder than a white person to get to their level. 10 times harder. I don't know, you guys might not know that, but that's what we have to do every day. When I go to work, I gotta work 10 times harder than the next person, white person, to get to that level. And this is what this is about. Putting everybody on the same playing level. And my thing right now is, why in this community are we getting so much pushback on that? If you want everybody to be equal rights and justice for all, then that's what it's about. It shouldn't be a pushback if we putting this in school. Everybody thinks it's about somebody coming into your home. If you have a strong home, nothing outside of your home should be getting in affecting your kids or your teaching of your kids at all. If you got a strong home, and if you're teaching the right stuff at home, so it shouldn't affect any of that. And that's it. Period. I mean, you have people. It's just crazy that the fact that one person comes in here to change for the better, and she gets so much flack from the community. Isn't that crazy? That's what bothers me here. This is a community, right? Somebody came in here to better the community, not to hurt you, not to hurt your kids. But yet, this woman's getting harassed like she came in here and stole somebody's kid or something. Or she abused somebody's kid. She's getting harassed. That's crazy to me. In the community, we claim, well, America's not racist. We claim everything is equal. But do you open your eyes and see it? If you've never experienced it, how can you tell me it's not there? How can you tell me it's not there? I've experienced it every day of my life. I grew up in Brooklyn. I moved to Virginia. I went to Hampton University, at HBCU. I mean, every day. When we go out, I have to do extra. Do you know what it feels to drive the car? No, you're not done there. Police come behind you. What do you feel like? As a black person, my heart starts beating. I know I have done nothing, but just the fact of my upbringing, my heart starts beating automatically. But does a white person worry about that? Not like our heartbeats. Not like, you don't know that. Have you been watching the TV the last 2 years? Have you been watching? You have no idea. You have no idea, because since I was 12 years old, playing basketball on the street, police come up pulling guns at us. Do you know what it feels like to be a teenager and get a gun pulled at you and know you have done nothing wrong? You have no clue.
1 minute.
No clue. But to restate, it makes no sense as a community that we are harassing this young lady who's coming in here to make the community better. And that's what she's trying to do. I'm sorry to go off on a tangent, but that's what's in my heart. And we need to understand that. Point blank, period. Don't care what color you are, whatever your political aspirations, whatever it is. We need to understand that she's coming here to make the community better. That's it. I'm good.
All right. Jason Marsh.
It's a tough act to follow, man. Well said, sir. Well said. Thank you. And listen, you've all heard me. I'm pretty sure everyone in here has heard something from me somehow, some kind of ways. I have turned into that guy, and that's not necessarily where I want to be, but that's where we're at. What's your name? Jason Marsh. Thank you. Okay? That's me. I think we all want the same thing. I don't think that. I know that. We all want the same thing for our kids. We all do. And I don't think anyone in here has a problem making sure everyone gets a fair shot. The problem is the approach. And it may not be happening in our schools, in our classrooms today. I take you for your word. But where does it stop? So, Pastor, you said, is he still here?
Yes, I am.
Yes, sir. So you said it, right? You said it, right? So you said what I have a problem with without really saying it. So this critical race theory, which is certainly not a curriculum, it works on the premise that our whole makeup as a country is inherently racist. It's systematically racist and white supremacist. I don't think anyone's going to argue that that may have been the case years ago, right?
Madam Chair, can you have the speakers address the board, please? This back and forth between the audience is not necessary.
Why does it stop with him?
It's community authenticity.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay. Here's where it gets down to it. So I have a little girl, an 8-year-old little girl and a 4-year-old little boy. And I don't want anyone telling them that they are an oppressor. I just don't want that happening.
I do want
That's
you
the
to
problem.
address us.
That's the problem. I don't want anyone sitting down any way, shape, or form telling my little girl that because she's white, she is an oppressor. And that because she is white, even though she has no control over it, she is inherently biased. I don't want anyone telling my little girl that because she's white, she's inherently biased and she's racist. And if she doesn't admit her racist, then she has to feel that discomfort. That's what critical race theory does. It forces racism. Racism is bad, so anything that you folks are feeling that I haven't never experienced, I get it. But these little kids today, let's change that. Let's not force it on them in an opposite direction, because I think that's what's happening here. I've presented, I don't know how many bits of information with the help of a lot of other folks. It's being taught to the teachers. We're telling teachers that you have to recognize your implicit bias. You're shaking your head. Have you not read the stuff that I've sent you? Have you not read it? Because I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not pulling it out of the air. It's in there. We're teaching the teachers to sit down and recognize their implicit bias. You've had Dr. Gladys Billings, who's a self-proclaimed critical race theorist. Her presentation was offered up to your staff on critical race theory so people could adjust their white fragility. I'm not making that up. You've all seen it. It wasn't open to the public. We had to dig it out. That's my problem. I don't want to shortchange any little kid, but I don't want anybody putting a finger on my little girl and telling her she's racist. It's not right. I'm no preacher, and I don't think that quick on my feet. This board has the final say-so in how these schools operate. As your constituent, I implore you to acknowledge that the evidence we've provided is at the very minimum related to critical race theory. I just want an acknowledgement. It's been introduced into the schools. And then I want you to be courageous and have some of your own courageous conversations and stop it. Make sure every kid gets a fair shake without pointing to the color of their skin. I'm confident that this board and the many professionals under your tenure, sir, can come up with ways to make sure every kid gets a good education without being biased or prejudiced, and without making them sit down and have courageous conversations and say, yep, I'm white, I'm racist. We don't need to do that. That's it.
So, Madam Chair, the maximum time of 30 minutes has finished, but we still have 18 people on the board, on the sheet to speak.
Okay. Now, our policy, and it has been like this, not just now, it's been like this, but the policy states that a maximum of 30 minutes will be designated for public comments, and in order to extend the time, a motion will need to be made and passed. So is there a motion to extend the time so we can hear the remaining speakers? Okay, well, I would like to make a motion to extend the 30 minutes designated for public comments, giving the remaining speakers 2 minutes maximum time for their presentation. Do I have a second? If not, the motion dies.
Second.
We have a second, and now we vote. We will vote verbally.
I have a discussion before the vote,
Okay.
Madam Chair. You said 2 minutes, but we have 18 more speakers. Is it possible that we could give them 1 minute? And if they have to extend it?
Your mother would take you to task for that.
Okay, 2, 3.
That's out
For-
of order.
Yeah,
Excuse
that's,
me. As far as I'm concerned, I was just threatening, officer, okay? You can ask him, removed him from the meeting, because I don't take threats.
okay.
I'm just asking the fact we have 18 people to speak, okay? This is discussion with the board.
That's right. This is discussion with the board, and the motion is 2 minutes. That would have to be an amendment to
To your motion, right?
the motion. So an amendment to the motion would have to be second, too. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, does anybody want to amend my motion instead of 2 minutes to 1 minute?
Madam Chair, you had a motion and a second on that motion, don't you? Do we
She
not
had
need to vote on that?
discussion.
I just had a discussion, I didn't have a motion. I
So
just asked.
do we vote on,
You would have to vote on
we
that.
vote on
have to
this,
vote
on
on the 2
on
minutes.
this, and then see if this passes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a verbal vote.
Yes, are we ready? So I have a first that was Ms. Carr and a second that was Ms. Perkins for a 2-minute time limit.
Right.
To extend the
To
time period.
extend, yes.
So now we'll do a verbal. Mr. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
No,
So then it doesn't
She said, you said no?
no. You know.
Okay. We only have 4, and that's 2 to 2, so the motion it dies. But we can make another motion, if you care to make another motion.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we will extend the time, but give the speakers 1 minute. If there is a speaker out there that have signed up to speak, and you need more than that 1 minute, I will be willing to stay here before we adjourn, to hear what you have to say. But the way it is now, with 18 people to speak, even with the 2 minutes each, double that, we will be here until the night. We have lots of people here.
Okay, so the motion
If
is,
they are willing to stay here till 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning, fine, we'll do it.
all right, so would you repeat your motion, because it has not been seconded?
So just repeat what
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we will give each speaker 1 minute.
Excuse me,
At this point, we don't have to give them
okay.
anything.
So the motion has been made to extend the 30 minutes designated for public comments, giving the remaining speakers 1 minute maximum time for their presentation. That was a motion by Ms. Tynes. Is there a second? Okay, verbal vote.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Perkins?
Yes.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a 4-0, okay. All right, so let me get my stuff ready. All right, stopwatch set. All right, next we have Miss Jennifer Boykin.
I'm gonna try to cram in half of it, since y'all are pulling a fascist move. I want to talk about teaching material related to Ibram Kendi, who wrote How to Be an Anti-Racist and has stated that capitalism and racism are conjoined twins and both must be eradicated. And material related to Robin DiAngelo, who wrote White Fragility and makes the claim that all whites are racist. This is extremely polarizing, agenda-driven, and divide people into identity groups, judging them by the color of their skin, and has no place in school or any grade. These materials may even violate federal anti-discrimination laws and should be met with extreme caution. I give you those 2 examples because that has been brought into our schools by our Equity and Inclusion Coordinator as recommended reading books for teachers and staff to read. I wanted to talk about culturally responsive materials, but I can't. But I will say that some material has been ordered from a California company called Eventbrite that says supporting transgender by Smithfield Middle School.
Thank you.
You all are a trip. And if you say CRT and its components are not in here, you are liars.
Mr. John Collick?
I'd like to wait till after the meeting.
Okay. All right. Mr. Albert Burkhart?
Madam Chairman, members of the board, just one very quick story. I had something else, but I'm going to do this real quickly. About 15 years ago, I was at the Carrollton Volunteer Fire Department. A student who had just come out of high school, he was wearing a Che Guevara T-shirt back and front. You know who Che Guevara was? Revolutionary, communist, Marxist. His father looked at him and said, "Where did you get that T-shirt? Why are you wearing that T-shirt?" He said, "My social studies teacher gave me extra credit to wear this." He sent that kid into the bathroom and had him take that shirt off, and they destroyed it. That teacher retired just a few years ago, and that kind of Marxism, communism is in your school. He was given extra credit for doing that. Now, he's retired now, and I suggest that you all maybe look at some of your current social studies teachers and make sure that that stuff is not continuing. Thank you.
All right, Miss Martha Jackson.
Parents want their children in school learning. Children want to be in school. We need to make every effort to ensure their learning is not hindered by unsafe practices. All families need to be flexible with changes as needed to help all children attend school. Put aside the what I want, what I need, what I gotta have. We need to be compassionate and put others above ourselves, a small price to pay. It would be a devastating and tragic catastrophe if we were to lose one child to COVID. Let us examine, evaluate, and check. What is important is that we do everything by being good examples for our children. They watch what we do. I challenge you board members, the central office staff, to wear your mask. Will you accept the challenge? Don't fool me now.
All right, his last name is Boykin. Is it? Okay, thank you.
My name is Volpe Boykin. I want to address one thing that was said earlier. I want everybody to know that not teaching children that they are oppressors is CRT and its tenets, that has its tentacles in the school system, says is not taking anybody back to segregation. It's keeping from putting other people in segregation. The other thing is the group I'm president of has been accused of taking things personal. Nobody has made any personal attacks on anybody. Evidently, people, they take elected positions or positions in the school board, and they think if people disagree, it's a personal attack. Nothing's personal. That's why you didn't hear from anybody last year or the year before. If they just didn't like you, they'd have been up here years before. Nothing is personal. I work in the field of lawyers. With them, we fight like cats and dogs in court every day.
Okay, thank you.
And then go eat lunch.
Catherine Smith.
Mine was about masks,
Okay.
so I'd like to just give others a chance.
Got it. Thank you. Angela Gibson. Angela Gibson. Okay, she's gone. Okay, it was about mask also. Okay. Is that Rhodey? Last name? Oh, same. Oh, sorry. Okay, about mask. Okay. All right. Sorry. Fletcher. Okay.
I'm Laura Fletcher, and I did have a speech, but I'm going to change it a little bit too. First of all, as our elected officials, and as we do pay our taxes or paying your salary and your time and for the schools, and to limit our time and to take a vote in front of all of us is disgusting. Yes. And every single one of you should be held accountable, and you should be gone. It is disgusting. Now, to my community members, I am going to turn around because I heard what you had to say and I heard what you had to say. There are some issues in regards to race. There's no question it's in our past. I think we've made huge improvement. And I would like to read to you this, and then I'm going to shut up. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
Thank you.
Please take your time to read this. The greatest document.
Next is Joanne James. Joanne James. Is Joanne James no longer here? It was about mass. No? Okay. All right, we already got Reverend Williams. Herb DeGroff. It's hard. It's there.
My 81 year
Your time has started.
My 81-year-old ears may not have heard you right. Can I wait till the end and give my full presentation?
Well, we're just going to be, no, we're going to be up here to talk to people at the end. Is that the way you're talking about it? No, give everything to her.
They asked you not to approach the board. Again, you're not following.
Herb DeGroff, the Hardy District. CRT, by any definition, an attempt to denigrate the historical evolution of our USA's history. Seemingly, our nation's history is presented as being badder than gooder through CRT. Really? Do you think the historical warts are greater than the ultimate good that has resulted from the founding of our constitutional republic thanks to the founders? Like every nation, history has recorded the good, the bad, and the ugly of our USAs. However, I submit the good vastly outweighs the bad and the good and the ugly. We continue to improve, and even in the face of societal ills, which happened every night when you listen the next morning as who got shot where.
Mr. Uzzle.
There's a resolution for y'all to sign to back up your public remarks that you aren't going to allow CRT in school.
I'm gonna change the subject here a minute. I'm gonna jump right to the fact.
Well, you have 1 minute,
1 minute. I'm
Cousins.
gonna try to push it. Give me a minute. Transportation. Just July the 29th, a bus was spotted in Churchland at 9:45 or 10 o'clock at very high speed. One driver was in it, and it was bus 96. Now, I have been speaking about security, about where the security is at. If no security is at that building, we's in trouble. That means somebody can stole a bus, drove it outside the county, and brought it back. Documentation. Just Monday, an incident happened in the transportation department. I'm glad all y'all here, because I'm going to get it straight. There's a problem in transportation. I've been telling y'all for years. Closed session I have brought to y'all several times to close. Had to be more mighty. But anyway.
Mr. Bill Jenkins.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Bill Jenkins.
First of all, thank you for your service. I just wanted to state tonight that many of the citizens of Isle of Wight County do not want to see our children and grandchildren being subject to the same liberal, socialist, and even Marxist teaching that is taking place in our nation's so-called institutions of higher learning or colleges. Knowledge is important, but knowledge without morals or the common sense to use that knowledge is plain dangerous. We must not let the same trash that is, and that's what I call it, it's my opinion, that is being taught in many college campuses be taught in our K-12 local schools. Please make a stand and make sure that our government's liberal values are not instilled in the children of Isle of Wight County. Critical race theory, please make sure that this type of Marxist teaching is not taught in Isle of Wight schools under any name. I believe this type of teaching is racist in itself. I've always taught my child and my grandchildren, I've always practiced myself to treat everyone the same no matter their skin color. I don't want anybody, I've never oppressed anyone.
Time.
My children have not oppressed anyone and my grandchildren haven't. I don't want any school system tell them they have. Thank you.
Mr. James Ford. James Ford.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the school board, Dr. Thornton and administration, and the families and representatives here this evening. I have one thing to say. Quite personally, I am embarrassed by Isle of Wight County, first and foremost, because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We can be civic-minded and be civil, and it's a difference. Now, I'm going to challenge the board. Naming and framing issues, difficult issues, is something we're going to have to face in our public roles, in our public duties and responsibilities. So I'm going to challenge you to come up with a way to bring this community together on this issue, because it's ridiculous that we have to deal with this every meeting. So some kind of task force has to be formed. That's the only way we can have a participatory democracy in this country. All sectors
Time.
represented. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Carr, that's all.
Madam Chair, may I just make one comment?
All right, I think that is,
The next part.
hold on. Because next is board member comments, reports, and information. So you want to make a comment?
I would just like to say,
Hold up, Mrs. Perkins, we have someone in the back.
Yeah, but
He's
he's
not
not,
interrupting
and he's
me.
not ready to speak. He can't speak right now. He can't speak. That's out of order. You may carry on.
we are not. We are not.
you have the
Here we go.
prerogative to make an exception.
You are out of order.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's twice.
We are not in Isle of Wight County teaching critical race theory.
Sign the resolution.
That's three.
That's two out of order.
You're out of order 2 times.
See ya.
Wouldn't we be?
You should be ashamed of yourself. You'll hear it at the poll.
That's his third time.
Thank you, sir.
He's out of order when he called my mother deceased.
Did you have anything else to say? No. Okay, so we're at board member committee reports and information. And I will start with, I'm sure everyone knows that it's been made public that Vicki Hewlett is no longer a member of the school board because she moved out of the Newport district and can't represent a district in which she does not live. So required legal documents have been sent to the Isle of Wight courts by our attorney as of today. And we are accepting letters of interest to fill this position through August the 27th. So if you email or mail a letter of interest, including some background and reasons interested in filling the position to Tracy Ruick, the school board clerk. A special called meeting date and time will be communicated in which interviews will be held to determine a new school board member to represent the Newport district through December of 2022. It'll be a special called election for a school board at that time. Did you have anything to say, Mr.? Okay. Did you have anything else to say?
Madam Chair, on July the 20th, I attended the virtual Virginia School Board Association conference, and that was their annual conference, and I did attend that virtual. I think it was something like about 9, started about 8, where you could go in and do some virtual things, and then 9 o'clock they actually start the session, and we had these little mini sessions that you could sign up for with topics of the different topics, and I attended 4 of those. And it was from like 9 o'clock until about 1 o'clock with 2 breaks in between.
Okay. Okay, and I was going to say this at the end of the meeting, but I feel like it's probably more appropriate now based on all the comments with critical race theory. Critical race theory concerns continue to come our way. It's a huge issue most everywhere. And I will once again say that the critical race theory has no place in our schools. It is divisive. It puts us in categories as oppressors and oppressed. It has roots to socialism and Marxism. We want no part of that. And this past month, I have spent hours reading about critical race theory. I have purchased the book, A Parent's Guide to Critical Race Theory. I have seen information foiled which led me to asking more questions. I have met with the superintendent to ask questions and get answers. I've met with a couple of board administrators. I have met with teachers and parents to ask questions. I even went to another school division's meeting on critical race theory in Gloucester County to see what else I could learn. You see, school board members are not part of the day-to-day instruction. The purpose of our monthly school board meetings is to inform us of what's taking place, give us a chance to ask questions, and make requests for additional information. We learn more when we're talking to building administrators or teachers or parents, some sharing great things while others share concerns. Our responsibilities as school board members are to help establish the vision and the goals for the school district, and we're going to begin to work on a new strategic plan very soon. Our job is to work with policies. Our job is to hire and evaluate the district superintendent, adopt and maintain an annual budget that is aligned with our vision, and to serve as leaders and representatives of the community and as advocates for students and the school district. We're not involved in the day-to-day instruction. And through all that I have done with my personal readings and meetings, I've learned there are some similarities with equity and critical race theory, and they are not the same. Yesterday, outside of the central office, I was speaking to an employee, not at central office. And this person said, "Ms. Carr, think of religion. The Mormon religion and the Christian religion have similarities, but they are not the same. Critical race theory and equity are not the same." What has been made clear to me in my meetings with school employees and parents is that segregation or discrimination is not part of our equity program. I have heard no one speak of any kind of curriculum to indoctrinate our children. I have 6 boys coming through this school system, and I do not want the critical race theory in this school system. I would fight for it. I'm telling you, critical race theory may have some similarities with the equity, but it is not the same, and it is not here. One of our building administrators said to me, "We are about unifying, talking and better understanding one another, talking about issues that are presently in our world, and instead of sweeping them under the rug, it can be beneficial in understanding each other and building relationships among our colleagues and understanding different cultures." If anyone is concerned about critical race theory in our schools, I strongly encourage you to learn about what critical race theory is. And then get involved in your child's education. Know what your child is learning. And if you have a concern with what you see your child is learning, go to the teacher and get answers. And if you don't like the answer, move on to the principal. Stay informed with all the communication that will be forthcoming with our new strategic plan. Be involved. This will be a good thing. Parental involvement directly affects student learning. And we are about to begin another very challenging school year. And there will be even greater learning gaps, especially in our early elementary grades. It will take all of us working together to support the success of our children. Okay, next on the agenda.
This is where we added the item
Oh, yes.
about so
12.2. Now, Governor School of Arts and the CSEP?
And WHRO.
Okay, well, the first thing we have to do is fill the spots that Ms. Hulick was filling with these committee positions. And one is Governor School of Arts and the CSEP. So do we have a nomination for one to fill that position? No nominations.
My computer's died.
All right, we don't have a nomination. Do you have a,
The alternates are still in place.
okay, who are the alternates?
The alternate for WHRO, I believe, was Ms. Tynes, and then the Governor School, CSEP and Governor School for the Arts was you.
Okay.
So
Just step up.
we just
All
want.
right, so what we will do, if it's agreeable for the school board, we will take the ones who were the alternates, they will move up and be the actual committee member. And do we need to vote for an alternate?
No.
You don't have to.
Okay, all right, so that's what we'll do. So that means that I am back on the governor's school.
Governor, CSEP and Governor School for the Arts, and then Ms. Tynes would be the WHRO. So I have you as making that motion for the first, and if we could just
Okay.
vote. If we need a second.
Second.
Okay.
She got it.
Okay.
Okay, so
All right,
a motion has been made and it has been seconded
All
that I would be the representative for Governor School of Arts and
Governor School,
CSEP.
and Ms.
And Ms.
Tynes.
Tynes will be the
WHRO.
WHRO. We have a motion, it has been
there you go.
seconded. Vote. Do we vote verbally?
No, it's coming, it
It's
should be
on here?
coming up.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be on mine, because I'm.
So Eric, is Eric in the room?
Ms. Perkins died. Her machine.
How did I get this?
Neat.
Okay, got it. Close. Okay, it passed. All right.
Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is financial presentations.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Thornton. In finance, we're just getting going in the school year, so the percentage of use of the budget is very low. Let me just compare it to last year at this time. So far, we're at 12.7% spent compared to the full budget. Last year at this time, ending July, was at 14.3. So we're moving along more slowly, which, in my opinion, is a good thing. You did have your check register, large ticket items. In addition, you had your facility use. So if there's any questions on any of those, I'll answer your questions now.
I have one.
Sure.
On the Standard Solar and Company, $11,535 for solar energy. And I know that we received the solar panels, it was a grant. It cost us nothing, right?
It wasn't a grant. They own it, and we pay them for the electric that we use from
Okay,
those
but
solar.
they got
Yes.
the grant.
It did-
Somebody
it
got
cost
the
us-
grant.
It did
It cost us
not
nothing.
Cost us a dime, correct.
That's what kind of stuck in my head. It
Yes.
cost us nothing.
Cost us nothing.
All right, so the $11,535, help me understand
Okay.
that.
They put solar panels on our roofs. We will pay them for the electric used out of those solar panels. So the question is, and it was a very insightful question, we will pay a lower rate per kilowatt hour for the energy used from the panels, and we will pay Dominion less accordingly. So over a year's time, and we can't answer that now, but theoretically, over a year's time, because we have a lower rate, hopefully we pay more towards the solar panels with a lower rate than to Dominion. After a year, we will know how much we will have paid less in our electric altogether than we would have paid over a year's time paying just Dominion.
Okay, so this is going to be accumulated data that we will be
Correct.
looking at.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
All right. Secondly, I'll move on to the American Rescue Plan. Thank you, Eric. All right. And it's just one slide, just as a reminder. But we're asking the board to take action, vote on the application so we can submit to the state, and also request from the Board of Supervisors additional appropriations. On the far left, the 4.7 million, that's your full allocation. If you want to call this ESSER 3 or Round 3, they call it different things. So this is our third round of federal funding. However, last month, we did appropriate $1 million. The Board of Supervisors appropriated the $1 million for facility items, so we could get going with things over the summer. So the balance of that, which we're asking for the board to approve, is the 3.7. On your approval, two things will happen. Tomorrow, we would submit the application to the state so they can review our spending plan. And secondly, we would send a letter to the county requesting that the Board of Supervisors at their next meetings appropriate the additional 3.7 million. Are there any questions on the American Rescue Plan?
Well, I did ask, and I think I understand.
Okay.
To get parent input on all of this, we sent out surveys, correct?
Yes, we did.
And the surveys helped determine how we were going to spend some of this money. And Dr. Thornton, can you give just a quick overview of some of the things that is going to be part of this?
Yeah, so what the survey talked about was a lot of parents responded that their child struggled in reading and math. Those were the two main themes. So one of the things that's in here is 10 additional teaching positions. In the previous round were additional aides in first grade, second grade, and third grade? First and second grade. So that they would have aides during reading time and math time. And in this grant also is Promethean Boards, which are an interactive board, so that teachers during student work time can separate students in groups and work on their individual needs. And those boards have software involved in them or that can be installed in them to easily pull up. An aide can easily pull it up. It will be at that student's, whatever their deficit is or whatever they need to work on. And then there's additional laptops. As you know, we now have a device for every student. With that is great, but now we have to try to keep up with that. And so there's money set aside for that as well.
What about the air purification?
That was in the first $1 million.
That was in the first million?
Yes. And there's a little piece of the air in this one.
That's exactly right. There will be, yes.
Do you remember how much, like 200,000?
An additional 400,000, correct.
400,000.
It's ultimately to continue to maintain at a higher level our air conditioning classroom units.
And one of the things we're doing right now, and it may be done right now, is one of the things with all the buildings, different ages, built at different times, there was a hodgepodge of the control systems.
Oh, correct.
And
yes.
so they didn't talk to each other, and we didn't have a central control. So we have upgraded, we have a central control, so our maintenance staff will be alerted ahead of a problem. If a boiler goes down in the middle of the night, they're alerted to that and alerted to what the potential problem is. So we now can control it from one computer, which the maintenance department has, and they monitor basically 24 hours.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yes, I have a question. I know we're not actually spending any money right now for maintenance or anything with Hardy Elementary because we're going to be replacing it soon. But with everything that's going on now, and especially with the COVID virus, I just wanted to ask the question, I guess I need to ask Mr. Coleman a question. If everything is okay with Hardy Elementary as far as the air and the purity, especially for staff and students returning to school? Because that is one of the older buildings in the county, and I knew we were not putting a whole lot of money
Well,
in it.
if I may,
Okay,
we're not abandoning taking care
Right.
of Hardy. So as far as I'm concerned, we will continue to take care of Hardy, just in preventive maintenance,
okay.
tending to those units just as though we were not having a new school built.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is an action item.
This is an action item. Do we have a motion?
Okay, Madam Chair, a motion to approve the submission of the American Rescue Plan application to the Virginia Department of Education for their approval and authorize the superintendent to request appropriations by the county Board of Supervisors in the additional amount of the 3.7 million that we need.
Second.
3,708, no, 3,708,317 cents.
Yeah, I did 3
I
point,
don't know why, but yes.
yeah. I just
I
rounded
don't
off.
look at those numbers very
3.7.
much. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We did have a second. Who seconded?
Mr. Wilson.
Okay, so now we need to vote.
Is it not working? All right.
Your motion carried.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the transportation update.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I have my report, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Gave us a lot on your report. Very detailed.
It's busy this
It's
month.
exciting about your new office building coming.
Very exciting.
I know you are. You're currently at Georgia D. Tyler
Tyler,
Middle School. Can you give us an update on when you are expecting the new office building?
Last I was told, it's going to be delivered on the 30th of this month. When they actually start constructing it, putting it together, it's a modular type building. When they actually start putting it together depends on the demolition, and right now we're
Has the
waiting.
demolition started yet?
It has not. We're waiting for clearance from Dominion, I believe.
So if for some reason Dominion cannot come and give you the clearance before the deadline, what are you going to do for your office once after September the 7th, because school is going to open that day? And I know you're going to have to move out of
We're
Georgia Tyler.
prepared to work out of Georgie Tyler for at
Okay.
least the first couple of months of school.
Okay, all right.
Okay. You ready for the big day?
No, but we will be.
Because the next time we see you right here,
We'll have 3 days.
school will
then.
we will have
That's
been
right.
in school 3 days.
That's right.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Support services and operations full report.
Madam Chair, I'm doing that for Mr. Coleman, because
Okay.
he could not be here this evening. And so the first item is the furniture for the high schools. As you know, you approved this a long time ago, and as you know, there's all kinds of backlogs in everything. We do expect this to arrive prior to school and having it in place so that we can have the proper spacing in all the classrooms. The next item is a Smithfield High School playground. And people may ask, why do you have a playground at a high school? This is, I believe, our third special education playground, and it has a sensory car wash, and it allows wheelchair accessibility. It allows students with disabilities an opportunity to interact with the playground equipment.
Did it say serving 30 students? Serving over 30 students? Okay.
And the next item was an RFQ went out for architect. So what that means is we have an architect who's on contract for items less than $500,000. And that's what this RFQ is, for things that we need or drawn up. And then when we build like Hardy and all that, we go through a full process again and do an RFP and find an architect for that particular function. So this is for more of the smaller items that we have to go through. And so we've gone through this, we've scored it, and next month we'll be able to bring you a recommendation who that is. Okay? The next is the chemical hygiene plan, and this is by policy, EBAA, the reporting of hazards, and a communication plan. So this is something that we have to do by policy, and what this really talks about is the chemicals like in science classrooms or chemistry classrooms, and you have to make sure that they're labeled and accounted for, and a communication plan, and we have to have copies of those in the office, library, and central office, and all that is in place. Next, we noticed some structural cracks in some of our buildings. One that was pretty visible at Smithfield High School on the backside of the gymnasium, really up high. It actually looks like it's bowing a little bit. And then those other areas as well. And Mr. Coleman brought in a structural engineer. They did an assessment on every one of those areas, and they are still all structurally sound. And we just want to let you know that was done. The next item is the school safety audit survey, and this is the actual screen that we send to VDOE, and you see all schools have been completed in 2018, 2019, and we're currently doing 2020. And then the school safety audit committee findings. So Mr. Coleman meets with a variety of representatives, parents, teachers, local law enforcement, emergency service agencies, local community services board, judicial and public safety personnel. He meets several times a year with these individuals. But with the safety audits, they go through the principal safety audits, they look at them, they see what they've asked for and review it, and they make recommendations for improvement. And so that has been done, and that's an ongoing thing. You can do it once a year. Mr. Coleman meets with them often and reviews safety.
That's a process.
It is. Next is a new Hardy status. So the next step we were at, we went from 35% design to 65% design. The next step is 95 and then to 100. Because of the prices exploding, we're really monitoring the subcontractors. And so the builder has said, he can't hold subs and ask for a 95% price and then go back and ask for 100, so they've asked to go to 100%. So what happens next is we'll meet September 1st with the contractor, and they'll be presenting a guaranteed maximum price for the construction of Hardy. And as you know, Dick Rice serves on that committee. We'll be talking about that price. We'll be bringing a recommendation to the board whether we move forward with that guaranteed maximum price. And then if we do, we'd be moving forward to the Board of Supervisors. So we're getting close. It's been a long process, and a lot of work has gone into that, and a lot of scrutiny along the way. And I believe that is all of Chris's items.
I want to go back to the safety audit. I remember when I was reviewing all of this, I remember, the principals put in things that they were concerned about at their building. And I saw 3 principals talk about the SROs, like I think Hardy principal and Carrollton principal. And I mean, if Carsville's still, my heart too, all of them are, but that certainly, that's something that we need to consider when we're talking more about budgeting, and that's still in the hearts of principals, and we certainly want that to be a part of something we put in our budget soon, request for budget. It's not forgotten.
Right, and that's something we really need to talk with the Sheriff's Department and probably you with the Board of Supervisors, because it belongs in the sheriff's budget because
Right.
they're their employees.
And we did talk with
And
them.
regardless of where they're located, whether in the schools or they're on the road, it all comes from the same pot of money from our local taxpayers. So I think if we're all on the same page, we need to have that discussion.
And we did meet with them, and then COVID came, and everybody kind of, just, it got crazy, but, yeah, we need to, it just kind of sparked in my head something we need to continue to talk about and not let it go by the wayside.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, it's you. I was wondering why you were standing there, Aaron. Time for you to talk, huh?
I was being patient. Good evening, Madam Chair, Board, Dr. Thornton. Just wanted to give you the technology update for August 2021. It's been an interesting year in tech. COVID made us very busy.
You still have hair.
I do, but I don't have a whole lot of gray because it just falls out instead of going gray. So, but I'm starting to get gray in the beard, so, First, I wanted to talk about money. It's important to everyone. We are approaching budget season, and so it's always one of those considerations. This is not a negative money conversation, though it's always a good one with me, right? 18-19, with the VDOE security grant, we applied for $191,500. We received $100,000 of a maximum reward of $100,000. I just wanted to give you a little history. In 19-20, we applied for a project for $293,000 with a maximum reimbursement of $235,000. We received $41,000. So not a great year, but we still received a reward. I submitted the exact same project the next year and received almost full funding for it. That was the classroom locks that you may recall from last year, which have been fully put in. I actually got a text from one of the principals this morning thanking me about 40 times for putting them in. She really likes them.
What school was this?
That was Windsor High. She's like, oh my God, I love not having to carry keys around to walk classrooms.
Can you elaborate what those are? when you
Yeah,
say
those are the
that?
classroom door locks, just like when you enter a building, you can badge in, right? We added them to every classroom in both high schools. We were not able to do every room because there are a lot of offices, just because we didn't get the full award. You can see here we received 151. But we were able to, with that 151, as well as a little bit that I put in July 2021, or as soon as the fiscal year shifted, I finished the last of the classrooms for both of those buildings.
So does that mean just the teachers and the principals can go in?
Teachers, principals, admin aides, custodians, maintenance, technology, central office, executive team can walk into those classrooms without a key.
So if students want to get into classroom and it's locked, they
They would have to be let in.
they would have to be let in. So during the day, when school's in session, are the doors unlocked or locked?
That is teacher choice.
Okay,
So a teacher can unlock a door if they choose.
with a key?
Nope, with their
That
badge.
thing?
And it will automatically relock at, I think I turned it on at 8 o'clock. If there's any door unlocked in the whole building that a teacher has unlocked that day, it'll just relock. So the next morning.
So do the doors lock on the inside, like while the teachers are teaching? Are the doors
There is
locked?
no interference with egress. So you can leave a room no matter what,
Okay,
right? It is just like in a building when you hit the crash bar. It's two different locks. One's referred to as a mortise, one's a cylindrical. But you can get out of the room no matter what. It's just getting in that you need a badge for.
okay.
And so this year, we wanted to continue that project and finish up Smithfield High and Windsor High, as well as I'm also applying for Smithfield Middle to add on the classroom doors. And there's 2 exterior doors I've been trying to get funded at Windsor Elementary now for about 4 years. So I'm trying that as well. And that is a total project cost approximately $289,000, with a maximum reimbursement of $231,000. So that went in, I believe Dr. Thornton approved it a couple of weeks ago, and I think we should hear something back. It's usually late October, early November. So just wanted to give you an idea on that. This year, we also have 2 new programs. There's the Emergency Communication Fund and the Emergency Broadband Benefit that were released as part of the American Recovery Act. Emergency Communications Fund, it will assist schools with connectivity and devices, offset some of that cost. And the Emergency Broadband Benefit is a community program that if you are below a certain income level, the government will pay for your internet. I believe it's 130%. What we've been doing is everyone that submits a free and reduced application, Mr. Kreiner has been sending that information to them. I also I'm on a task force with several members of the community and the county for increasing connectivity in the area. I'm just there for information. They're really doing all the work, but I did bring that information to them, and they were going to add that to their resource page. As far as the Emergency Communications Fund, I've been filling out paperwork for a few days now, and it's due tomorrow. We should hear back what we got funded and what we didn't, but I am trying to get basically $400 for every student that filled out the survey that we had just finished, because we had to present that as evidence.
It's really exciting with the low-income families being able to get access to
Oh,
technology.
most definitely.
Fantastic.
And the task force, Mr. Robertson runs, and I think Mr. Rosie is on it, Mr. Gray, and a lot of community members. They've been doing a ton of work, and they're submitting a huge thing with VITA that, like Dr. Thornton signed support for, and I believe you did as well, Ms. Carr. That is a joint project between Wight County and Suffolk. So hopefully that gets funded as well. So lots of money floating around. This is just a year-over-year technology review. So this year, Dr. Thornton was feeling very generous to me and allowed me to get 2 additional bodies during COVID. One of them is operational, and one was funded by grant. To give you an idea, when Dr. Thornton started, 2015-16, that's about right, isn't it? We were running 2,932 work orders per year on average. Well, actually, that's exactly what it was. And 72 phone calls to our help desk, which, in case you didn't know, we had a live help desk from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day. Nobody used it. But we got 72 calls in a year. It was mostly in case something was down. We had somebody there who could answer the call. The next year, we went to 3,865 work orders with 99 calls. Next year, 4,257, so steady trend upwards. Next year, 5,784, 345 calls. Last year, there was a dip in the work orders, obviously, because we kind of stopped early. 5,351 work orders, but we did jump to 1,035 calls. That was, we shut down on March 13th. The live help desk was up by March 20th, and we had 5 guys answering it the rest of the school year. Parents, we actually publicized it to parents at that point. We had not done that. It was just for teachers and staff before that. So a big difference. This year, a little busier. 6,174 work orders with 5,565 phone calls.
How many bodies did that? 2?
We have 6 technicians that answer the help desk.
Okay, so not just those 2 extra.
Correct.
You had.
Oh,
okay.
everyone our actual busiest day was the second day of school, I believe. We had 474 calls. So I was answering the phone. Brian, who's hiding in there, was answering the phone. My network administrator, who hates talking on the phone with a passion, was answering the phone. We were busy. So that's just a inkling of part of what we were doing. So some of the projects we've been doing this year, the most prevalent one currently is the West Side Auditorium. I just finished putting up the last of the cameras today. In that room, I've put it, you'll see a picture of it on the right side. I've got full audio system in there and about 6 cameras and lots of televisions. Looks kind of similar to this, actually. It'll be for the school to use as a presentation space, as well as, I believe, a public PD space when it's not in use by the school. So it'll be very useful for that school. We also are working on that annex replacement you were just talking about with Mr. Livingston. Keep in mind, anytime you hear a construction project from Mr. Coleman, I'm involved there somewhere, because people don't like to go without their internet. So we've also replaced we replaced Smithfield Middle last year in the middle of COVID, their public address system. We are starting on Carsville's replacement on I believe right now it's the 21st of August is the estimate of start date. It should make the beginning of school interesting, but we'll figure it out. It would have been done earlier, but everything is getting delayed, which you'll see momentarily. But we've also done all the wireless expansion and upgrades into our parking lots. We've done buses in several areas in the county. We've expanded with county assistance to make sure our community had as much opportunity to access the internet as possible. We did a storage area network upgrade as well. This is not something you would necessarily know about. I just wanted to mention it because it's probably a $100,000 project that we did without anyone realizing we did it, which has to be done every 5 years. It's basically where all the servers run from. And when we can do something and no one notices, that's a huge deal for us. We've also done all the high school badge readers that we were talking about, and I also turned on a new global web filtering system today, Monday actually, and got my first email from a principal today. I'm sorry. So last year we put in a web filter. It's so that when students are at home, they are still being monitored on any device we provide. The one we put in place, it was okay. It did the work, it did the job. Our principals really hated it, so we replaced it this summer with one they hopefully will like a little more, which was also a big project. And of course, dozens of smaller ones that we've been working on. So the challenges that are still in front of us, I mean, we're 3 weeks to school now. Is that right, 3 weeks? Soon. We still have all of these things to worry about. So production and product delays. We ordered items in April we still haven't received. I went to order an amplifier for an audio system the other day, and the rep actually looked back at me and goes, "I think you'll have it in 2022. I was like, oh, that's too far. So production delays are killing us. Delivery delays, estimated delivery of August 10th for items that I need for the freshmen. Still haven't arrived. They don't know where they are. Should be fun. Contractor availability is, of course, another concern. So every time we have to do anything, I got to schedule a contractor for it. They're having labor problems, which means everything they're doing is slowing down, which means getting them scheduled is no longer, hey, can I get you here in 4 weeks? It's, can I get you here in 8 or 12? Right? And then, of course, enrollment volatility. I just wanted to put that one on there as we had no idea what our enrollment was going to end up this year. There was talk of possibly a double-strength kindergarten enrollment. We had no idea if parents or the community were going to be concerned and possibly not re-enroll kids. Our enrollment's looking good right now as far as I've seen, but we have to be ready for every child to walk in the door and have a device, so I have to be ready for whatever hits. Right?
Right. Last year, we had a device for everybody, so what's the difference? Like,
I have to prepare every device for every student. We replaced all the Chromebooks, right? We expanded Chromebooks to 3rd grade this year. We also bought brand new Chromebooks for every 9th grader, so I had to prepare all those. Then I had to take all the senior devices clean them physically, like get all the dirt and grime off of them, and then clean all the data off of them and hand them to our 7th graders, I had to rotate things around the division. And that's not including the fact that I also have to be ready for new teacher orientation on the 18th, which Cheryl stresses me out about a lot.
So if the new products don't come in, do we still have something we can give them?
One way or another, everyone will receive a device. I have received the device themselves. Dr. Thornton let us order early this year, because I told him, I was like, I am not seeing this summer going well for delivery. So he let us order early this year, and I've gotten the laptops. The problem is our insurance says I have to have a case on those laptops. Right, so all the insurance plans that we offer out there, every one of them requires a case. The cases we ordered on April 14th. No one knows where they are. Hopefully they'll be here this week. Or next week. Let's go with next week. So, in the end, we have prepared, and keep in mind, we touch every one of these devices every summer to upgrade, clean, charge, assess, repair, everything. We've done 1,250 iPads, around 1,800 Chromebooks, and 2,600 Macintosh computers. So that's all since we weren't allowed to collect early this year because of the virtual. So it's probably since mid-June. Are there any questions as far as technology is concerned? Thanks very much.
Thank you, Eric. Good luck. Okay, next on the agenda is a report from the superintendent, Reboot, and the strategic plan.
Yeah, so it's nice and refreshing to talk about instruction, and I wanted to share the training that we had for administrators, assistant principals, instructional coaches, reading specialists, everyone on the instructional side. And so we kind of named it Reboot, because we were getting back into the swing of things and having all of our students back. And then also, where are we going into the future, planning for the strategic plan over the next 5 years. So I'm not going to share every slide and elaborate about, some of you know about this, but it's just like a refresher of what we have been doing and what we're going to get back to doing. So first, we wanted to start with just celebrations. Then we put up some here that were noteworthy, that Hardy's coming, and it's right around the corner. We had the first division-wide Girls on the Run, and that's in the nation, that every school participated. The First Lady of Virginia visited twice last year, Hardy Elementary School and Windsor Elementary School. The Secretary of Ed came with her to Windsor, but then was very interested when he saw our farm behind that and our land lab, and went out there and was amazed and shared some of that with others around the state. And you know, we've gotten grants through because of that land lab every year since we've had it. And the Excellence in Workforce Readiness Award that for the state through VSBA. And that was first.
Is that the CTE award?
Yes, and that's first place for school divisions between 5,000 and 10,000 students. And it was for CTE programs that enable students to transition to high-demand, high-wage jobs directly from high school. And that's been our focus. That, yes, we still encourage you to go to a community college or further your education if you want trades, but we want to be able to send you into a high-paying job right out of high school, and we're able to do that in some areas, and we're doing a good job at that.
That's a huge accomplishment. And I remember someone saying, even through the pandemic, we had 25 welders leave our program certified, ready to go into the workforce.
Yes, ma'am. Yep,
And
we're
so
proud of that
first
number.
place award by the state, that is an accomplishment. And I just am very, very excited about that.
one of our students won first place in the state for VSBA, the essay and the speech that they gave that speech at the VSBA conference in July.
It's the conference I attended.
Yes, and we're still working with Ferguson Enterprises that donated $25,000. You know, we've helped rehabilitate 2 homes in our community so far. We hope to do more with Ferguson as we get back to a normal school year. And I had to put this one. Our cafeteria staff through last summer and delivering meals and going all over the county and then opening during the year and serving students in classrooms, we served over 1 million meals, and that's major. And then the service calls you heard about, the one-to-one. And in all of this, we were able to still play sports, and we did have 2 little shutdowns in sports, but we were able to win 3 state championships, 1 in boys basketball, 1 in debate, which I'm going to say debate, 5 years in a row, state champions. That's unbelievable to be able to do that. And then boys soccer. So a lot to celebrate, even though we had a lot of challenges. So I'm very proud of that.
You missed one, and I don't want to leave these students out.
Okay.
But we also had some champions with track and field.
Track, yes, the 4x100 boys. Yes, 400 meters.
Right.
Right, you're right. I missed that. That was not a team one, but those 4 individuals, yes.
I remember because we honored them at our last meeting.
You're right. So I'm sharing some of the stuff that was shared with principals. And we talked about, we got to reboot, we got to refocus, fix emerging issues. We still have issues that are coming up, and we have new challenges that we thought were behind us, and some of them are still here, and who knows what the future has to hold for us, but we have to be prepared. We have to correct software glitches. We are so dependent now on technology, and try to restart and halt those memory leaks. Damage has been done over these 18 months. We know that. We're assessing our students. We're going to try to remediate our students. But even though we're remediating it, we're doing it within our classrooms, and we're still trying to accelerate and move forward. And then reignite and update and work for improvement. Okay, so the first thing, you can click, is our focus documents. These documents, as you know, have been around now. They were developed through the last strategic plan. This is our work instructionally. It's the instructional framework. It's deeper learning lessons, going deeper, and critical thinking, and teamwork, collaboration, all those 5 C's that we talk about. That is framed, that was developed by instructional administrators, teachers, a lot of involvement. That's what we do, and that's what guides our staff.
So that's still a big part of what we do.
Huge part. Yeah, we're doing well with that. We want to get back to that. And so the instructional framework is what happens in a classroom. And I didn't show you every slide, but this is the critical part, student work period. You see 20% in red. That's direct instruction where the teacher's delivering the lesson. That should only be about 20% of the time. 65% of the time is small group, teacher guided, like I said, maybe at the Promethean board. That could be where remediation happens. That could be where acceleration happens. That could be projects. That could be team building. It's all kinds of activities and give students a chance to be in charge of their own learning. That's critical, and that's in all of the research for their learning. And none of us want to be talked to for a long time. Okay. One of the things we talk about is norming the observation. So we're talking to administrators, what does it look like when you go in and what are you looking for? We're looking for things in those focus documents. Are those happening in the classroom? And when we say norming, we want to make sure all of our principals and assistant principals are looking for the same thing. So that is occurring during our training. critical thinking, deeper learning, our focus documents. We identify the verbs, we highlight them, and then these are some of the questions that our principals work with teachers, and teachers work with each other and instructional coaches. Are you familiar with critical thinking strategies? And we have been trained in all these, but we're reviewing all these. We're trying to re-energize and get back to what we do really well. And what could be added to the lesson? We're always critiquing each other and how can it be better? And did that work in that lesson? It didn't work for those. So, and then the other part, the depth of knowledge wheel that we have. Is it rigorous? Are we just asking yes or no, or are we really challenging our students? So all of that goes into the observations, the training, and the communication.
What was that, DOK? What was that?
The depth of knowledge.
Depth of knowledge, okay.
Right. What was it called before? Hunters?
Yeah, I don't remember the old term. You know, like understanding, checking for understanding, analysis, evaluation. It's the higher order.
Bloom's text.
Yeah.
Yes, Bloom's.
Higher order.
We used to talk about Bloom's.
Okay.
It's higher order, yes. It's a new word for the same thing. Okay, next. And providing feedback. So what are the coaching conversations you'll have with your teacher after this observation? And that's what it is. A lot of times people think there's this divide between administrators and teachers. That's an administrator's job, to sit down with someone after an observation and let's talk about what went well. Let's talk about what maybe we can improve and have it back and forth. And you're trained on how to have those conversations because we don't want it to become confrontational. It's not about that. It's about getting better at what we do. And this next one, this is a key question we ask. How can you ensure that high expectations are evident for all students in your building? So a lot of what we talk about for teachers is delivering instruction. They're trained how to deliver instruction. They're not even really trained how to develop curriculum, and we'll talk about curriculum later. But we know, and some of you that have attended the Senior of the Year banquet where they honor teachers, the teachers who connect and build relationships and understand who each individual student is are the ones who make a difference. And during that night, they don't talk about Miss Jones gave a beautiful lesson in math. They did pay attention in math and did well in math because they trust that teacher and they have a relationship. That's what has to happen. And so I wanted to share high expectations because that is a key that we're going to focus on too in convocation. I'm going to take you back to when I was a principal, like over 25 years ago. And I took over a high school with 50% white children, 50% black children, approximately, but 65% free and reduced lunch. High poverty, and that's how socioeconomic status was done in that time. The SOL scores in that school at the time, the highest SOL pass rate was 37%. 37%. In math, it was 5%. And I'm looking at those teachers who were working hard and were educated. They knew how to teach math and history. They went to college for that. And so why were they not achieving? And so I did not go in as principal and see, how did Miss Tynes teach math? How did Miss Carr teach history? And analyze that. And I'm a math teacher. I'm not an expert in history. Why would I be able to tell a history teacher how to teach history? But what I did go into, because our gaps were black-white, a huge gap back then. Our gap was socioeconomics, those free and reduced lunch kids. Why did they exist? So what I did through my own training as I came up, and this was 25 years ago now, I went in there with a seating chart and I put a little check every time the teacher called on a student. Then I wrote, what type of question did they ask? Was it yes or no? Was it a higher order question? Was it an analytical, deep thought type of question? What were they asking them? And then I met with that teacher afterwards, and I showed them the chart. And in most cases, on that chart, they had called on mostly white students. They had called on mostly white girls. And they were totally unaware of that. And they said to me, I didn't even know that. And when they asked some kids that they looked like they were in poverty, of how they were dressed and stuff, they asked them a yes-no question. And they never asked them a higher question. Those teachers responded to me and said, you know what? I've never had a better observation. You didn't come in here and tell me if I had my objective on the board and this or that. You gave me something that I didn't know I was doing. That's the only thing we did different. It's the only thing we did different. And talk about all the time. Just because these students are in poverty should not mean they can't pass these tests. They should be able to go on to college. They should be able to achieve just like every county around us. And I pushed that. And that's all I pushed. 2 years later, fully accredited high school. Fully accredited. Then I said, you know what? The next gap we looked at, looking at our data, was we only had 25% of our kids getting an advanced studies diploma. And if you don't have that, you're not going to college. So if you don't take the right courses to get you to college, you're not going to college. And I said, we need to push more kids and let them take Algebra 2, Chemistry, World History 2. Those are the 3 tests to get an advanced studies diploma. Let's give them a chance. And I will tell you, some of our teachers were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Mr. Thornton, that's going to affect our SOL scores. We count on only the top students taking Algebra 2, only the top students taking Chemistry. And if you put other students and they fail, they're going to lower our SOL scores. It's not about being fully accredited. It is about, do we get students from point A to B to C and to graduate? So that was the next thing we pushed, and we put those kids in that class. 2 years later, we went from 25% of our students getting advanced study to 71% of our students graduated with advanced studies diploma. In a county with 65% free and reduced. Kids that weren't supposed to succeed. And it brings us back to a lot of conversations I'm hearing. Those teachers love children. But what those teachers admitted is their lived experiences for so long is they weren't successful with these students. And they started thinking, how can I teach these students? They're so poor. And they didn't even know it. Yes, we didn't know that word then, but what it was an unconscious bias that they were told this little county can't be successful because they're poor. And once we took that away and said, you got to have a high expectation for everyone, and we did this, they achieved. Because we took that away. That's what made the difference. That's what we're doing now. What are the barriers that are keeping our kids? Why does Isle of Wight, which only has 35% or 30% free and reduced, and is a beautiful county with beautiful people, why do we only have 50% of our kids get an advanced studies diploma? And I'm not saying they all have to go to college. But it would be nice if they took the classes that if they wanted to make up their mind their senior year, or maybe a year after they're out of school, and say, hey, yeah, I do want to go to college, they can go. Because we put them through the coursework that could get them there. And even if they didn't pass all the classes, were they more challenged? Did it help them grow in whatever they would tackle? Yeah. Those are the things that I hope we look at as we move forward with the strategic plan. So the next area that we looked at is project-based learning. Gosh, we missed this. And the expos, and I think Ms. Jones shared some of that with the emerging leaders. Our young people telling us what they learned versus taking a multiple choice test. And everyone who's seen our expos, what a great thing. And that's not specifically math or history. Those are presentation skills. That goes back to those 5 C's. And go ahead, Tracy. So we need to align the PBL process and go back through that. We haven't been able to really do that. Go ahead. And these are some of the things we go through in the training. A project is not dessert. It's not an add-on. Let's get through teaching this, and then we'll let you do a project. Project-based learning is we're going to learn all the objectives through the project, through all the activities we do. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of training, and we were getting very good at it. And we want to get back to that. And these are some of the 6 A's of powerful projects. You can assess differently. It's not a multiple choice test. The adult connections, presenting to the public, active exploration, applied learning, academic rigor, and authenticity. And one of the examples was going out there and redoing those people's homes. And that's authentic work. So how can you ensure high expectations are evident in your building with this? That's another key question. It's another equity question. When we examined this, and I don't know how it happened, but as we implemented project-based learning, teachers were implementing it in their AP class or their honors class. Like, let me implement this in honors earth science, but then I can't do a project in regular earth science. The whole idea of project-based learning is to find people's unique differences and talents and skills and how they can apply that to a project. And we weren't letting that happen. We were only letting the top kids do a project. And so we need to look at why did that happen? We can't allow that to happen. That's for everyone to learn through. And so that's something that came out. This is a moment to brag here too, is check us out, Isle of Wight County PBL projects. This is on the pbllounge.org. These are vetted projects with the content of Virginia standards. These are 92 projects vetted. This is on that website that any teacher in the world can tap one of those projects, and our teachers developed those projects. And those were very successful projects that happened in our school. And we're proud to share those with anyone.
Were they on a wall at a school?
They're on a wall, so you can come up and put your
I
phone
thought
out
so.
there and do it, but they're online for anyone. And they have to be submitted to PBL Lounge. And they are high-quality projects. We have some high-quality people doing high-quality work.
So they don't have to keep reinventing a wheel.
Right,
A wheel.
exactly, yes. And there's descriptions on it, all of them, the SOL standards that are in there, the appropriate grade level, different activities. You can go there and copy it. You can go in there and tweak it maybe and kind of make it your own, but you don't have to start from scratch if you're not sure about projects. And we have instructional coaches that will help us. And I've mentioned this before, the soft skills through the PBL. When you have to stand up and present your project, and that's one of the things I said to the young people when I went this summer. You guys did such an amazing job researching. I can't believe how in-depth you've gone. But some of you I could barely hear, or some of you your voice was shaking. I don't know if I believe you. I said, if you want someone to believe your research, you got to be confident. You did the work. Be confident delivering. And that's what we say. We don't say anymore in Isle of Wight, thank you, Denise, for standing up in class when you did a horrible job presenting. What does that do? It reinforces poor presentation skills. Now, we don't blast you, but we do critiques, and we pass balls around. We let peers critique. And this is what you could have done better, Denise. Here's what you did well, Denise. And those are critical conversations. We teach kids how to have gentle, critical conversations with each other so that they can improve. So this is some of the things I just talked about: critiquing, peer critiques, gallery walks, drafting and revision. So we go through multiple drafts. It's okay if something doesn't look great the first time you do it. Let's critique it and make it better the next time. And assessing besides using just a multiple choice test. And reflection, looking and going back, and reflection logs. What could I have done better? What went well? Those are all higher order thinking skills that we're teaching our kids that will be useful no matter what they do when they leave our school. And expos, like I said, amazing when our young people can share what they learn. And curation. We have on our walls, if you go through our schools throughout the year, what the projects are and curating that work because they're proud of their work and they want to show everyone. And student differentiation. Projects is a powerful way to do that. I already said it. Everyone can add their talent and gift to the outcome, but they're all hearing each other's talents and gifts and they're learning from each other. And so these are just questions we ask principals and we ask our teachers as you go through. And some of our teachers are great at this, some struggle at this. That's what we have our coaches for and to assist them to take a risk and try these things. So the next one, I might ask you to address it, Susan, put you on the spot.
Yes.
It's just 2 slides. So curriculum alignment. We have noticed through the years that our upper teachers, experienced teachers, they're retiring. And I'd love to keep them forever, but they get to retire. And across the United States, we have a teacher shortage. That's because less and less young people are coming into education, and the majority of our teachers are probably 20 years plus. And they're leaving us. And so these young teachers may not have the curriculum aligned. So we have worked with Hampton City and we have purchased curriculum so that we know we have a fully aligned curriculum. And if you want to explain the benefits of that.
So I'll start with just what we've purchased from them, and then I'll go into some of the other details about it. So we've purchased elementary curriculum, mathematics, so K-5, aligned curriculum, and I'll talk more about what that is. 4th grade Virginia Studies and 5th grade Science. We've also purchased 6 through 12, all 4 core areas. We also have access to high school classes such as art classes, CTE, health curriculums, and those will be, if teachers want to use them, they can use those curriculums, like the CTE, the art, the Spanish. Go ahead. That's right. Okay, so the Hampton curriculum is completely aligned. They've spent 5 years working on this. As you know, they have a huge staff of instructional personnel. So whereas we have Haley Cooprider as our reading person, they have like 10 Haleys. Same thing with math. We have Kristen Formella, who's math and science. They have a ton of people in math, a ton of people in science. So they have aligned this curriculum and they are allowing school divisions to purchase it. People purchasing it are probably divisions like us, smaller divisions who do not have large personnel to write curriculum. The curriculum includes pacing guides, all lesson plans with lots of links for resources for those lesson plans. So you get on a lesson plan, it goes through the complete plan with numerous links. And all the benchmarks. So they're all aligned. Those benchmarks obviously will help us to better monitor our teachers. We're comparing all benchmarks, the same thing. So if you're taking 4th grade math, everybody in the division in 4th grade math is taking the same benchmark. And they're aligned, so their new standards aligned. And Hampton will also provide us with a detailed analysis that they will do. Again, it saves time from our staff doing it. Again, small staff, and they can do it very quickly. So it'll be a help for our principals. Again, I said with our small instructional staff, it's been really hard. We have worked to create our own, write our own curriculum. We do have K-5 reading. Haley, with our reading coaches, she has developed K-5 curriculum. We're not going to change that. We've worked really hard on it. But in the last, 4 years, we've gotten through really good curriculum for reading. We've worked on math, but it's teachers coming in during the summer, and we've gotten some done, but it has not been to where we want it to be, which is why we've taken this step to purchase it. It's a great resource for teachers. They actually have a curriculum to follow. So if you think about if you're a brand new teacher coming into Isle of Wight, you did not have a curriculum. You had standards of learning and you had some resources, but you did not have an actual curriculum to follow. And so now we are able to hand new teachers, here you go. And in fact, some of our new teachers who have learned of this, they are excited. And our new administrators, because we have several who have come to us from Hampton, they were jumping up and down at boot camp last week when we told them we've purchased this curriculum, because they've seen the benefits of it. They've seen that it is aligned and how much time it gives back to teachers. Giving our teachers this resource, we're hoping that's your tier 1 instruction. So when you have students, and we know we have students with lots of gaps coming back to us, you can focus your time on what are you going to do for small group instruction? How are you going to address those gaps during the framework student work period? Here's tier 1. Now, what are you going to do to address those tier 2 and tier 3 students? So we're hoping it's going to give time. And lastly, here's your Sunday back. You don't have to spend, you remember teachers, right? You spend, it may not be Sunday, but you're spending one of your weekend days typically planning. I know that was me Sunday afternoon. So we're trying to, again, giving some time back for teachers. What questions do you have about it?
Okay, so curriculum, when you say curriculum, define that.
I mean, it is the pacing of week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. It is the by day. This is your essential question. Here's your learning intentions. Here are your learning outcomes. And then literally everything you can do to begin your lesson and hook them. What it is that you're teaching that day. Guided practice, independent practice, I do, we do, you do, all of that. Assessing. How can you extend students if they already know the content? What can you do to remediate kids and differentiate for kids who are struggling? It's all there for you.
But does it have the flexibility to add your thing?
Sure. So if you have a great way of teaching a standard and you've been successful in it, yes, the pacing will need to be the same. But if you know a great way to teach a certain standard, we're not taking that away from you. We're not saying you can't do that. What we are saying, here's a great resource that is aligned. Use it. Here's the pacing. But we're not taking away all of your autonomy and saying you can't change it up.
Right. Because, we remember...
That would concern me if I were
Sure.
a teacher.
Yeah. We remember the day when we started on page 1 in a book.
Right.
And by the end of the year, we might be on chapter 20, and it was 25 chapters to it, and we just never got to the last 5 chapters.
Right.
But now, it's like we're teaching the standards, and we are breaking the standard down to teachable objectives.
Yes.
And teaching, okay.
Yes. And when I say aligned, I mean whatever that verb is that you're being asked to do in the state standard, that's what you're going to be doing in the class. What we see a lot with our SOL scores is we're doing well, but we still have 25%, 20% of kids not achieving. We have an alignment issue. Some of our standards are not aligned as they need to be, and this will help fix that.
Susan, thank you very much, because I was familiar with the Hamptons program. I have friends that work there, and not only that, it's been in the media for the last year or so. And I can remember when I came out teaching, although I was in SPED program, the regular classroom teachers had the textbooks, the curriculum that came with the textbooks. That's what they use. I'm glad to hear that we're now collaborating with other districts, because as our students could not compete with the students from the larger cities, But now they should be able to, as far as academics, because they seem to have been, like you said, taught on a higher level. They had more staff than we had to concentrate with those students. And I'm glad to hear that you all have reached out to the Hampton Public Schools to collaborate with them and use their curriculum.
Yeah, and they've offered this to anybody who,
Right.
who wants to purchase it, and so we just decided to take, we've looked at it, we've reviewed it, we're very impressed with it, so we decided to take them up on it.
Thank you, Susan.
So next, strategic planning through an equity lens. So I want to share with you, we do not have a separate equity plan. We're building a strategic plan for the next 5 years that has an equity lens, that we investigate and we look at things and how we're doing that. And now, does Ms. Jones have a plan that she will submit to Mike Lombardo? Yes, that with objectives that she wants to accomplish, just like the math coordinator does and the history coordinator. Does that mean all of that plan happens? No. It gets tweaked as we go along and things, and we're learning, and especially with equity. I already expressed, we've been doing equity 25 years ago or more, but now there's a vocabulary out there. And so a lot of it is new to us. And as we learn with anything, and even when we've developed this 5-year plan, that plan's going to be tweaked as we go through the 5 years. What have we done well? What are we not doing well? What do we need to look at? It ended up different than we wanted it to be. And we're moving slowly. What we've done so far is train our administrators and instructional coaches. And our next step is going through training for our teachers, and I'll talk more about that. But that is in small groups. That's going to take until spring of next year. That's the biggest goal as we go through the strategic planning, is that awareness training for teachers. And then the other goal is serving on the strategic plan as we look with that equity lens. And I think someone read this earlier. We keep asking, what is our goal for equity? This is our goal for equity. Education equity is achieved when we eliminate the predictability of student outcomes based on race, gender, zip code, ability, socioeconomic status, languages at a spoken home. I shared an example with you this evening. With a school I took over, it was just accepted that they weren't going to do well, and it was okay. We do the best we can. That doesn't have to be the final answer. This should be the final answer. So next thing I want to address is this picture, which so many people can see it in so many different ways. I want to share what I see. I see a fence that's a barrier for access into the game. And not all students need the same support to have access to that game. Even though all students with the proper supports in the second picture have access to the game, undoubtedly not everyone is going to still achieve the same level. How do you participate in the game? What do you put into the game? There's still going to be differences in outcomes. That's not going to change. But if you don't even have access, that's when you have huge achievement gaps. When you have access, then individuality helps determine the outcomes too. So you have to have access. Our gaps, 2 of them that we found already, is our black and white students with achievement, is our special ed students with achievement and in discipline. To say I'm going to be colorblind, no, I'm not. That is a problem. There is a difference between black and white student outcomes here, just like there was when I was a high school principal. I didn't go like this and say, God, I hope it goes away. Let's sing hallelujah, and we don't have a problem. No, we have a problem. Let's find out what it is, and how about trying to solve it, because that's why we're here. That's why we go to in-service training. That's why we go to project-based learning training. That's why we do all that we do. And in all of those trainings through the years, I was a teacher too and an administrator. And I sat in those things where I was like, man, this training's crazy. And that may have been project-based learning training or something else. No one sits there and agrees to everything they're given for training, but you take bits and pieces and you make it yours into your classroom and your instruction. So the ultimate goal is to build relationships and find out who the students are in your classroom. What are the barriers? So hopefully you can remove the barrier. And I see the young man who can see over the fence. He can see over it all the time. That may be the student that we look at that comes from an affluent home, and we look, or an upper middle class home, and you have two parents at home, and the world looks wonderful. We look at that, and they're well dressed, and we look, and they can speak well, because maybe they had grandma at their house reading to them from age 2, and we look at them and say, they have no problem in the world. We don't know that until we get to know our students. We're in a different day and age now. With technology the way it is and the exposure our kids have, yeah, we need to teach them at home. And if you don't think they're going to be exposed to God knows what out there in the world, then you better put them in a little bubble and take every device away from them. But like someone else said, you still control your home. I learned this here. I learned this here. I learned this here. What does that mean? How do you think that means, mommy or daddy or grandma? And that's what education is. You take everything you learn and you analyze it and you make decisions. And if it's not that way, then we're going to have a bunch of robots. That is what the beauty of education is.
So go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Explain the second, that I see the equality, they all got the same thing. Well, they didn't do them all the same way. But the equity, like the tall boy didn't get anything. So explain that.
Right. So what that is showing that some people come to school and
They already see the game.
I already have access to the game.
Mhm.
And even that's an assumption. That's what I mean by we label kids even if we think, oh, that's a great family, a great kid, they have everything going for them. We expect great things from them. We don't know the trouble they may be having. They might be depressed. And a depressed kid may not even share his family. The family may not know. That's why we need to start having conversations with our kids and understanding where they're from. And we need to understand the vocabulary.
But that equity picture is not saying we want them all at the same level.
No, we want them to have access to the game. And when you have access, we all have individual differences. We still have kids who will have access now with different supports. And maybe there's other things, maybe they don't really care about history. So maybe they won't do as well as the person sitting next to them. There's all other factors too. Education is one of the most complex things that we do. And we just want to make sure you have access to participate.
And it's just like our reading program. When they come, we have kids come into kindergarten that are already reading, and we have some that have had very little access to books. So for a kindergarten teacher to meet a child where they are and take them to the next level, we're not going to hold this child that's already reading back and just let them be there. We're going to take that child to the next level while we're meeting this child at this level. When I first started teaching, we were all in the same reading book. And if you weren't on that level,
Lord help you.
I'm so sorry. That's how I grew up.
Our teachers look at SRL scores, and that's just one sampling. Our teachers look at how those kids scored the year before, and if they have a kid who scored 500, which is past advanced, they're trying to get that kid to 550.
That's right.
If they have a kid at 375 who didn't pass, they're trying to get them to 400 to pass. If they're at 400, they're trying to get them to 450. They're trying to grow every kid. It's not going to be equal outcomes. But we want to look at, if you're having trouble, why? What is it causing it? And there's a whole lot of things. It's not just the kids or their family life. We just talked about curriculum. If we're not teaching what's tested and how it's tested with the right verbs, and this teacher's teaching it this way and this teacher's teaching it this way without the verbs, we're going to have different outcomes. And they didn't do it on purpose. Those are all things we look at. We try to examine all of it so our kids will be successful.
And you're right.
And maximize their potential.
The doctor sees one patient at the time. A classroom teacher has a class. And I mean, they need support from the Haleys and the coaches and all, because of all the different levels they have and the resources we need, because we've got so many different levels that we want to take to the next level in the classrooms.
So next is the culturally responsive training and teaching that I said was going to last or take it through the spring to get it done, to get 4 sessions done with all of our teachers. And it's an awareness, it's a reflection. It's not a mandate that you believe this or else. There's more diversity in our classrooms than ever before, and we need to take the blinders off. And I'm not going to apologize. We do discuss privilege, bias, transgenders, LGBTQIA, because it's a new vocabulary. I've learned things in training I didn't know. I have transgender kids in my school. I do know that. But I didn't know some things that I should know. And I don't interact with the kids day to day like that. But one thing that came out is we had a teacher this year that actually asked their kids, what pronoun do you want to be called? It was an activity at the beginning of the year and to get to know their kids. And I had a parent email me furious. What are y'all doing up there? I didn't know they were doing that. And I didn't know if it was a bad thing or a good thing, but I found out in the training, it's not an appropriate thing to ask. That person who may want to be called by a different pronoun may not be ready to share that. They don't want to be asked. And you're putting people on the spot? That's not appropriate. Through that training, I learned that. Now we're sharing that with our teachers.
She
Don't
was
do
a
that.
new teacher, correct?
Yes. And young. And they're exposed. The reason this language is out there, we all have internet. It's out there, and it's defined by, whether you like it or not, the far right. It's defined by the far left. It's defined by moderates. It's defined any way you want. And that's education too. And you read it, and you reflect, and you figure out what it means to you and how you may use it in your work. That's what this is about. And it's not something that we're going to teach kids. There are people who argue that, you know what, high school kids should talk about this. I'm not going to say we're putting that into the curriculum, but I'm going to ask you, how are you going to keep it out of the curriculum when current events happen in history? When you and I were in history classes, didn't you all ask questions of your history teacher? Hey, I heard this, I saw this, and now kids are exposed to a whole lot more. We used to only be exposed to what that history teacher shared with us. Now we're exposed to everything. So if they ask a question, we don't have to give our opinion. We always tell people, don't give your opinion, but you can give them, here's where you can read on it. Go home and talk to your family about that. since I've been in education as a student, we have governor elections, presidential elections. And I remember having to make posters. I remember a few years back when it was Trump and Hillary, and the students in one of their projects made posters, and they had to take a position. We weren't trying to indoctrinate them to be Hillary Clinton or Trump. They were researching about what they believe in and stand for and what the election's about. That's education. And then those students hopefully went home and talked to their parents about what they heard. And then they probably heard what their parents thought. And then they make decisions. This is not new stuff. It's new vocabulary that's been happening forever. And again, we're not, the fear that's out there about some of this stuff is just, there is no evidence. We're not teaching kids this curriculum, but we are teaching adults this. We're exposing them to this. We want them to be aware. We want them to reflect. So steps in the strategic planning. We've outlined the process and the timeline at the last meeting. I've gone over culturally responsive teaching training that's going to occur, and the equity audit that will be conducted over the first couple months of the school year. All of this data and more data will be used to help inform the strategic planning process, as well as community input and the focus groups along the way. And I guess what I want to say to end is the equity audit. Let me talk a little about that before I end. What the equity audit's going to do is have an outside firm come in and evaluate our practices and look at our data and give their reflection of our data. It's hard to examine your own data. And they're going to look for and determine recommendations, practical, strategic, and actionable next steps. And one of the things that I thought was powerful is they're going to have and share with us the differences in how students and how families and parents may see our schooling versus how we see our schooling. That's going to be powerful information. We have one lens looking at what we're doing. Parents have a lens. So do our students. That's going to be valuable as we collect that information. But as we go through this process, here's the difficult part. I've been in poor school systems my whole career until this one. This is the hardest job I've been in. You know why it's the hardest job? Because we're good, and everyone knows we're good. But to go from good, which at this time doesn't include everyone, to great, that's the hardest work. Because when you already know you're good, you feel satisfied. There's a certain part of our population that's not part of that. We're not going to be great until we include them. And I want the whole community to join into the strategic planning process so that we can be great. That's the goal, to be great and include everyone. And I hope people join us. I know I was long-winded. Is there any questions or comments? I'm sorry.
So next on the agenda is,
The calendar.
yep, update on the calendar.
So if you have any questions on the calendar, I can answer those
answer.
for you. Graduation will be June 10th, and that is why we have added in the day off for students on June 10th so that we can hold Windsor and Smithfield High graduations at Liberty. And if our staff, obviously our staff to attend, yes. And then we also added in 2 early dismissal days to accommodate parades for homecoming.
Oh,
at
is
each
that why
end.
the dates are different? I couldn't
Yes.
figure that out.
Yes.
Okay.
Each end have their homecomings. They'd like to do the parades. And what we find every year is parents and students are asking because they want to attend the parades. So we're giving a little bit of early dismissal for the 2 dates.
And I'm delighted about graduation.
Yes.
because Graduation last year was wonderful.
Wasn't it wonderful?
It
It was wonderful. And so we've secured that location, and they'll both be on that Friday.
Well, this is something that we had asked for years ago.
Yes.
We sent people out to get that information. Susan, you were here, and we were told that Liberty Live was not large enough to hold the congregation from Wight County, Smithfield High School. And I just said, I've been in that place. I don't see why not. It seemed to me just as large as, the Coliseum, maybe not as large, but we proved them wrong.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was amazing.
Yes.
And we got through it, and I haven't heard of anyone being ill. Thank
Nope.
you. Thank you. You all
Yes.
did a wonderful job.
Okay, next on, we have an action
have to
item.
make a
It's
motion.
an action item. I'm ready to move
Madam
on.
Chair, I make a motion to revise the 2021-22 school calendar to include early dismissal dates of September the 24th for Hardy Elementary, Carrollton Elementary, Westside Elementary, and October the 15th for Carsville Elementary and Windsor Elementary. June 10th as staff work day, student holiday for graduation, and June 20th, school closed for Juneteenth holiday.
Second, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been second.
Mr. Wilson, can you hit yours again? It didn't go through. It's good? Okay, oh,
Hit the wrong one, actually.
okay. You want to just give me the verbal and I can change it?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, yes, okay. And there we go. It passed.
Got it?
Okay,
Still said.
it's still up there.
I know, it still said. Okay. I'm gonna have to,
Could be, yay.
yeah, let me fix it.
But motion carries, so we're going to move
Yeah,
on.
it
Is that
carried.
okay? Okay, next on the agenda is masks for the 21-22 school year. We know earlier today the governor mandate of masking for all K through 12 students, certainly for many in our division, was a big disappointment. And we have listened to the hearts of so many parents passionate about masking and others passionate about parent choice. And I feel for you because I'm right there with you. I have grandsons entering kindergarten, grade 2, 4, and 7. But this is what it is, and we want to make the best of it. And while I have nothing to do with the instructional day schedules, I would like to encourage maskless breaks, as many as we can get for our students. Elementary, I remember having 3 recesses, in the morning, after lunch, and in the afternoon. And, that's just the way it was back then. Middle school, high school, we need to be creative. Will we get through as much instruction? We don't know. But we're going to do the best we can. But the fact that learning is taking place and children are going to be with children, we can look forward to some fun time together, continuing to grow and learn.
Excuse me. I just want to say something, because Madam Chair, what you just said, to sort of contradict what has happened earlier today with the governor, okay? And I feel that we are a school board sitting here, what you just said, you have children or whatever. I felt that statement didn't need to be made, coming from us right now, okay?
I don't know how you took it. What I meant was many are positive about what happened, where many are disappointed. So, but we're all in the same place, so we got to make the best of it. That's what I meant. If I came across differently, I mean, I'm not stating my opinion, I'm just saying by all the emails that I got, there was some passionate about we want masks, and others were passionate about we want parent choice. And where we are is there's no choice. So we got to make the best of it. That's how I meant to come across. I apologize if I came across differently.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the capital improvement plan.
So the capital improvement plan is something that we do every year and update every year at about this time of year. This is information tonight. Next meeting, we want public input on the capital improvement plan. Last year, when we had public input, we had requests about renovating the band and chorus rooms, and we researched that and came up with an approximate cost of $1.3 million. We had requests from the public for a synthetic football field at Smithfield High School and redoing the track. And many of the teams we play, or maybe all of them at this point, play on synthetic fields with the 4A schools where Smithfield plays, not Windsor. And then the reconfiguration of vestibules, that is a door and then another door before you can enter the school, so for security reasons. And all our new schools have those in our design, but could we reconfigure the ones we have? And there was a cost to that. And then this is something that I added. This was not added last year officially, but as we researched a new West Side Middle School and explored and found a Georgie Tyler being built in Chesterfield County, but with 1,100 students, which our West Side needs to be, we found out it was far more than 28 million. It was going to be about 40 million. And I know Mr. Grice helped research that and found that out as we, and it might cost more with the economy we have. Who knows? Hopefully prices start to come down, and I'm hearing they are starting to come down a little with lumber and certain things. So those are things that I'm going to submit for next year, but then we need input from our principals or anyone that they've heard in the community or anyone that wants to come forward next month and speak to the board. So the next slide, I know it's really small and you have it in your packet, but the top one shows last year. And so for the public, there's 16 million under there for Hardy. That's the second year of Hardy. That was what was approved in the Board of Supervisors plan. And it goes through the Planning Commission and then through the Board of Supervisors. It was $11 million the first year for Hardy and then 16 million, so 27 million. And you see next year, you see Hardy's not even there because that was already approved and this is a moving 10-year plan. That doesn't mean that money disappeared, that was appropriated for those things. And you see the 28 million that was there for West Side. But the rest wasn't in that plan. So the second slide, which I'm going to click for, is this slide. Everything in red is what we're requesting that wasn't approved in the past. And so you see the bus garage and central office is in there. That's really a placeholder of about $2 million, but you see that's in years 6 through 10. That's the out years. And then you see our most immediate concern is the security vestibules for $290,000. We probably need to be moving at that, and Smithfield High School and Windsor High School and some of our schools that don't have that. And then the additional money for West Side. And none of that is officially approved. We still have to go through the whole process. And those numbers have changed since the initial conversations. I'm hoping that we can still build a new West Side Middle School. Because if you remember when we developed the plan for the northern end of the county, it was for growth. Hardy helps growth, but if you don't add students and build a new west side and have more capacity, then we've got a problem with growth. You build both, then the high school and middle school that exist now become 8 through 12 instead of 7 through 12, and we have growth. So hopefully it all still happens, but we got a long way to go. And a lot of conversations and a lot of research still. And that's it. If you have any questions.
Thank you for that update. Okay, next is the action on the closed session items, personnel report and addendum.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the personnel report and addendum.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. Has been second. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. Okay, next on the agenda is the religious exemption request, but they were taken out of the packet. Okay. Next is the adoption of the consent agenda, the meeting minutes, donations, and financials. This is an action item.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes, the donations, and the financials.
Second.
The consent agenda, all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody second?
Mr. Wilson did.
Okay, sorry. Motion made, second, and vote. The motion carried. Next is the policies for second read from our July 28th work session. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the policies for the second read as presented.
Okay. We're going to vote. Before we vote, I want to say that I support our current policies that were discussed at the July 28th work session that protects the rights of all students and prohibits discrimination of any kind, including gender identity. I do not support adding the Virginia Code, Section 22.1-23.3, to the legal reference sections, as it could imply that we support the entire 27-page VDOE model policy document that could conflict with other Virginia laws. The motion has been made. It has been seconded. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is policies for first read. This is an information item. Any questions?
But, oops, you skipped one. It was
You
in
skipped
the-
policy
sorry.
812.
8.2.
18.2, sorry.
Well, it's at the very bottom of the page. Okay, I see it. All right, 18.2, policies for second read. There are 3 policies for second read. This is an action item. Any questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the policies for second read from the July the 12th meeting as presented.
Well, no, was that the? No.
Yes, yes, that's right.
July 12th meeting.
Oh, the July 12th. Okay, thank you, Ms. Tynes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda, 18.3 policies for first read. We had a number of them. Any questions or comments? This is the first read. We will be voting on them, not tonight, but next school board meeting. Okay, next is policy for approval. Okay, this is that JN.
Student fees.
The student fees.
So I'll just add, the policy itself has not changed. We just, every year, we have to update the fee schedule.
And I did ask the question, why are the class dues different at each high school? Do you want to, because somebody looking at this may question it. Could you give that answer?
Yeah, it's up to the buildings how they want to do it, and it's dependent upon what traditions are in place, what activities are planned typically during the senior year.
Right.
So it's up to each building how they want to handle it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is an action item. We need a
Chair, I
motion.
would like to make a motion to approve the policy JN with the student fees as presented for the 2021-22 school year.
Motion made. It's been second. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is 18.5 regulations and exhibits. This is an information item. We're not voting on it. Any questions, comments? And the policies, 18.6 policies reviewed but not revised. There were 3 policies. Any questions or comments? Okay. Do we have any board member requests and comments?
I have a comment, Madam Chair. First comment I would like to make is not a comment. I would like to say something to the public tonight. I apologize for my public outbursts that happened during the citizens' comment. Some of you do not, many of you that know me, most of you in here do not know me. 12 years ago this month, I lost my mother to a homicide. When that individual stood up and said what they said and screamed out my mother, it became very personal to me. And I apologize if I had an outburst because that is not me, okay? And I hope you accept my apology. Secondly, last month, I had to distance myself and leave the meeting early. And I've heard a couple of comments that I left because I didn't want to hear the citizens speak. That was not it. I'm going to share this with you. I have a severe back issue, L4, L5, and L3. On L4, I have a growth, and I was still in the middle of my treatment. I could not sit down. It just got to the point, if you were at the meeting, I was doing this, I was doing that. Thank you to my pain management doctor. I am able to come to my meetings now and sit until I can have the surgery. And those 2 things I would like to apologize for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Times. Do you have anything, Mr. Wilson? Did you have anything?
No, not right now.
No,
No,
they
because
were
they
taken
were
off
out.
Ms. Perkins
Yeah.
because due to the age of the youth, the request, they will maybe come back next year.
You have no comments?
No.
I have none, and now we will, this is where we would adjourn, but we agreed to hear from, how many was it that we?
There's only one person that wanted to stay after the meeting.
Okay, one person
Yeah.
to stay after the meeting. So do we want to just carry on and let everybody hear the person, or do you want him to come up, Ms. Tynes? You were the
Oh, he
one-
can come up and he can have the 5 minutes that he
Okay.
normally would have. But I want to explain myself about that too. I wanted to go on and take care what we needed to do at our school board meeting. But yes, as citizens, I would like to hear you out, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Tice. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that. And again, my name is John Colick. First, I want to start off by thanking the chairwoman for your kind letter in response to my comments last month. I'm very heartened to hear that all the students will be treated alike, that is, with dignity and respect. The policies against harassment, bullying, etc. apply to all students, faculty, and staff as they should. There's no daylight between the board and how I feel. But before I start, I'd like to ask you to please remember that you represent the citizens of Isle of Wight, not the Virginia legislature. Your job is to set policy reflective of our shared community values while upholding both the U.S. and Virginia constitutions. It's not to enforce any unconscionable laws established by people who seem addicted to power in Richmond. As an elected body, you should not be subject to the dictates of another elected body. Now, as you know, my primary concern was that parents must be notified when a child identifies as transgender. And at the 28 July work session, the superintendent clearly articulated that exactly what would happen, and I thank you, sir. He also mentioned that he would like the authority to promulgate regulations based on those policies that were approved this evening, and I look forward to reviewing those policies. Now, my secondary concern was that boys would attempt to use girls' locker rooms, stating they identified as girls. Again, I think the superintendent made it very clear this is unacceptable in our schools and parents would be notified. Again, I thank you, sir. Now, in addition to my concerns about this topic, which should be described as critical gender theory, since the roots come directly from Herbert Marcuse, who developed critical theory ideology, I'm also concerned about the critical race theory that's been discussed a lot here tonight, as it's known in many schools and throughout corporate America as equity and inclusion. Now, I think we all understand there is no curriculum developed for CRT. However, we do know that Isle of Wight teachers are being trained in this type of ideology. This can be referred to as transitional education. That is, by influencing the teachers or educating or training them, you expect them to influence the students. Some teachers may even feel they're being threatened by termination if they don't pass that along. But because of time constraints, I'm not going to go into any more on that, and I'm not going to talk about the large sums of money that are being used to purchase literature and training materials for equity and inclusion. But I will say that it does take away from the primary mission of our schools. That is to provide high-quality education and develop a sense of patriotism and citizenship in every single one of our students. We need to return to educating our kids and stop indoctrinating them. Sadly, it seems that our school system is slowly moving towards the indoctrination, whether or not wittingly or unwittingly. And the equity, inclusion, and transgender model policies are examples of that. As a citizen of the county, I will not allow social experimenting in our schools to go on without a fight. Now, one way we can do this is to change how our schools function, and change it now. Our schools need to act as a business, almost like Walmart.
1 minute.
Traditionally, businesses seek to maximize profit through sales, but Sam Walton tried something different. He focused on minimizing expenditures and was able to build an empire. That's what we need to do in our school system. I'm going to skip a couple and just basically say, as I close, I want to remind each of you what I said last month and find it even more true today as both the U.S. Congress and the Virginia legislature continue to pass legislation that most Americans are against. And I continue to stand by my comments that, quote, most of our elected officials and many bureaucrats in our Commonwealth have become little tyrants, forgetting they are subject to the people, not the other way around. Over the last 2 years, they've made laws and regulations that are abhorrent to the average person. Folks, I had a great night tonight. I learned a lot, and I beg of you not to become little tyrants by ignoring the people that elected you.
Time.
Thank you very much.
And now our meeting is adjourned.